Ladies and gentlemen, councillors, staff and members of our gallery, and for those online, we're now commencing our ordinary meeting of council for Thursday the 23rd of July 2026. A reminder that this meeting is being webcast and all those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Also a reminder to the gallery that the use of a recording device is a breach of the Code of Meeting Practice. So I'd be very obliged if we could all note those rules. Ladies and gentlemen, if we could stand for our acknowledgement of country and our prayer. Yass Valley Council recognises the Ngunnawal people, the traditional custodians of the land, water and sky. We pay our respect to their elders, past, present and future emerging leaders, and we extend our respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live in the Yass Valley local government area. Let us be still and remember the presence of God. As we commence our meeting, let us together pray for guidance and help. Join me in a prayer or take this moment to reflect. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon this council. Direct and prosper our deliberations to the true welfare of Australia and the people of Yass Valley. Amen. Please be seated. Councillors, we have a full house, so there are no apologies. Do you have any declarations of pecuniary interest or special disclosures? Before we do it on Globo, I'll just get the confirmation of the minutes, please. Thank you, Councillor Flanagan.
Well, I wanted to ask a question.
Question.
Sorry, I'm doing two things at once, tea and a question.
It's hard.
Just a question with relation to 8.1, questions of notice that I asked at the previous meeting. It was to do with the number of strategies, and in the response to the strategy, it had the Parks and Place-based strategy due to be complete by July with presentation to council. Now, I read that as presentation to council in July, but having reflected on it, it didn't quite say that. So I was wondering, otherwise I would have asked questions about it. How have the papers been written? So is there a question? Should I ask a follow-up question?
So when we get to that item, I would suggest you move to note it and you can unpack any further information. You can do a follow-up motion if you require.
But we're not getting to it. We're passing the minutes, and this was at the previous meeting. So how do we get to
about the
it?
previous
I'm
meeting?
talking to the previous meeting. So I wanted clarification whether with presentation to council meant in July or presentation to council at a time that's undisclosed.
Let me just get to that
Okay.
page. Can you just quickly give me the page where your question is on?
No, because there's no page numbers.
Okay. Review to be completed by July with presentation to council.
So it doesn't, I read it as presentation to council in July, I assumed, but it doesn't actually say that. No. So I just wanted clarification.
Yes, that the review be complete by July, but the presentation come later. Yeah. Okay. So that's, if you would like to, I'll just put a request in for that to be meeting. Is that what you're asking for?
Clearly that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for clarification as when we're getting a presentation to council, because it's a little bit dubious as to whether the presentation to council was in July or whether there's a presentation to council at some point. And so I think acting with the maturity, when will we receive a presentation to council?
I'm happy for the director through the CEO to ask. Answer, sorry.
Yeah. Through you, Madam Mayor. We're just finalising the internal review of that in this month. It was not intended to imply that we would bring it to the July meeting. So apologies if that was how that was conveyed. Definitely not the intent. It will be coming to council imminently, August, September.
So that's dealt with. I now need a mover and a seconder for passing the minutes. Councillor Rothwell and Councillor McGrath. Mover and seconder happy to put this through?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions from councillors? All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. I'd now like to do our mayoral minute and then we'll do on Globo. This is in relation to the very successful NAIDOC Week activities led by the Ottawa Local Aboriginal Land Council, sponsored by the National Indigenous Australian Agency and supported by Yass Valley Council. The Mirror Minute is that Yass Valley Council acknowledges the dedication and effort behind the success of this month's NAIDOC Week of activities led by the Ottawa Local Aboriginal Land Council. And in the spirit of collegiancy, I'll seek a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Cherry. Ladies and gentlemen, this was an absolute pleasure to be a part of this and to support the Honour Wall Lauk. This is, as I understand it, the first time we've had a full week of activities and such variety and such engagement from our community. I'd like to recognise the grant partner, National Indigenous Australians Agency, for their support. I'd also like to acknowledge our staff and also the provision of the Crago Mill precinct. It was utilised in a fantastic way with an art exhibition, which also had the artists on site to talk about their artworks and the meaning behind their artworks, which was amazing. I'd also like to acknowledge our staff, our executive, our events and media and library staff. I know it's hard to pull someone out and highlight them, but Georgia and from our events team and Laura, as well as Jake, were certainly extremely supportive, right down to Josh in the fleet team, moving all the cars out for the market day to make sure everything was on point. And I'd like to thank everyone in the community who contributed to this wonderful cultural celebration. And I'd also like to share with you that the Honour Well CEO, Ms. Michaela Stopp, who was very integral to the success of this event, along with her board, has written in today and would like to have acknowledged on record during this meeting that she expresses her sincere gratitude following the acknowledgement of this year's NAIDOC Week celebrations in today's council meeting. And the full letter we'll have published in our correspondence for the next meeting. But thank you to everyone involved and very well received by our community. Ladies and gentlemen, would anyone else like to speak on the item? Thank you, councillors. We'll put that to the vote. Unanimous. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have a mover and a seconder to move on Globo, items 6.8, 6.10, 6.11, 6.13, 6.14, 6.17, 9.1, 9.2 and 9.3. So moved, Councillor Cherry, seconded.
Can we just pull out 10 at this moment?
I'd like 610 out as well.
16.
Certainly. Is the mover acceptable? Yep. So I do need a seconder, please. So second, Councillor Cameron. Councillor Cherry. Cameron? Right. Any further speakers for or against? Let's put that to the vote. Those items have been moved unanimously. Councillors, I'll now seek a second procedural motion to lift the roads review 6.18 to the top of our agenda, please.
Question. Why?
Yeah, that's my question too.
Certainly, I'll just ask the CEO to respond. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with having presenters on standby.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, Madam Mayor, we have both Brendan Williams and Tyrone Toole here from the NTRO, National Transport Research Organisation. And I thought it would be beneficial for them to be able to speak and answer questions for councillors and then potentially not stay for the whole duration of the meeting if that was acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I could have a mover for that. Cherry, you're on fire tonight. Okay. Seconded. Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. All those in favour of bringing that report to the top? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. So councillors, item 6.18 is what we have before us. Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Cherry.
Madam Mayor, whilst I've got a hot hand, I might as well go for it. May I move an alternate motion, please? And if our executive assistant could bring that up for everyone's attention, I'll read it for wider awareness. Motion to read that council, point 1, notes the National Transport Research Organisation, Yass Valley Council Road Review Report, including its key findings and proposed recommendations. 2, acknowledges NTRO's findings that Yass Valley Council has a sound understanding of its road network supported by comprehensive asset information, established road hierarchy classifications and a strong commitment by operational staff to improve outcomes within the resources available. Point 3, accepts that the largest factor influencing Yass Valley Council's current and future road maintenance performance is the ongoing shortfall in funding for a periodic maintenance and capital renewal, resulting in works being deferred and increasing the risk of accelerated asset deterioration. Point 4, notes NTRO's findings that addressing the current funding shortfall and maintaining existing service levels requires an additional minimum investment of approximately $10 million per annum across road maintenance and capital renewal. Point 5, endorses the NTRO recommendations and directs the CEO to commence implementation of those recommendations that can be achieved within existing budget allocations, whilst identifying any additional funding requirements to implement the remaining recommendations. Point 6, directs the CEO to provide a report to Council no later than October 2026 ordinary meeting detailing A, a financial and productivity comparison between Council's internal grading operations and contracted delivered grading activities. B, the potential benefits and constraints associated with accessing and using materials won from local borrow pits. C, Council's proposed approach to managing roadside vegetation within existing budget and resource constraints. D, progress made in implementing the NTRO recommendations. And E, any further opportunities to improve the delivery of road maintenance services across the Yass Valley. Point 7, directs the CEO to present to a future council meeting in 2026 options for funding council's annual roads maintenance and renewal program to address the long-term funding gap identified in the NTRO report. Point 8, directs the CEO to maintain accurate and current road maintenance schedules on council's website and continue publishing monthly reports and detailing road maintenance works completed, ensuring the community is kept informed of both planned and delivered works. Point 9, resolves to expend the internally restricted Roads Reserves Fund of $44,818 and allocate those funds to local road vegetation maintenance. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cherry. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Rothwell. Councillors, would you prefer to start the debate now, or would you like to ask some questions from our presenters? Suggestions?
Ask questions.
Okay, certainly. If we could have our presenters come forward.
Certainly. Tyrone and Brendan.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here, and we really appreciate your time to here live in our council meeting. For viewers at home, we have Mr. Williams and Mr. William and Mr. Toole. Councillors, if we have a question or two, if you could raise your hand so I can see that you have a question. Councillor Cameron.
Need to stand? Okay, thank you.
Give it a link.
No, just lazy. Just in regard to, it's been brought to my attention by a conscientious person. Looking at the amount spent on maintenance, it's on page 76 of the business papers. Compared to, you say, amount spent on maintenance compared to 5 to 8 years ago is only 25% of what it is now. It seems to me to be a very low figure compared to what was done 8 years ago. Would you like to comment?
Really, that figure is what we've been advised of. The allocation to road maintenance has reduced, and simply we're putting that back.
But it's a very significant amount, so
it's a very significant reduction.
okay. And I just think that perhaps hasn't been brought to the fore perhaps quite enough, because I think the criticisms of the roads in the Yass Valley LGA really that they aren't being looked after enough. And obviously people are going back to 5 or 8 years ago to say this isn't good enough. So unless we get more funding, we can't sort of match that sort of statement that happened years ago.
And that's, that clearly benchmarking it back to what it was, and clearly there are other priorities where funding is being
Diverted to, or
allocated, community wishes and driven by council, etc. Then I think that needs to come out stronger.
the other question I had was raised by the same person, was that the $10 million figure that you mentioned was needed, was that for total operations or was that just for maintenance?
Maintenance and additional preservation and renewal
Of the whole network?
of the whole network.
Right, okay, it didn't include sort of assets or buying new assets or anything like that? Okay, so you're fairly confident that that's $10 million figure is appropriate?
I think that number is reasonably appropriate. Another number which we've been discussing today, I've been doing some further analysis on, and
Right.
I spoke with CEO and put to it, is we talked about bringing it to a sustainable level, funding for ongoing. You first need to bring the roads into that sustainable state in the first place. That itself will add more to the demand over the next 10 years or so.
Bit of a chicken and egg sort of, fix up one first and...
What he's referring to there is, obviously the report highlights that there is a backlog work, so it's initially addressing that backlog focus.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, following on from Councillor Cameron's question, if I could ask a follow-up question. How many years at 10 million do you suspect we will need before we can get to that more sustainable level? I'm assuming that could drop.
If on what we're now terming the backlog, that itself is going to need around 8 million, something like that, per year to catch up over 10 years. It's bringing the network into a sustainable condition. So 10 years is something to keep an eye on. And the 10 million, we mentioned that to bring it up to that sustainable level. Look, it's going to be a long haul, like a 10-year effort. Beyond that, and this is a comment I've made, once you've got, as we know, I keep on going back to the weather board and things like that, when you've got it there, you can actually step back a bit in some of the areas because you're doing the stitching time and all that. It's definitely that 10-year that I would be saying you're looking at.
And if we don't embark on the 10-year program, what percentage or how many of these roads are going to drop down to those categories where it will actually require, for example, full resheeting or lots of rehabilitation to bring them back?
Look, on the unsealed roads, it's pretty much there at the moment. And really the important thing is getting that balance, including minimum access standards and things like that. On the sealed roads, the question that we've got, and we've been discussing with the team just today again, is how confident are we about the underlying capacity and foundation? Or can we invest at perhaps what would be about a quarter or something like that of the rebuild and capture it now or as soon as possible? And that's a question that we're discussing with the team, including drawing on their experience and ours, of course. So it's really, there are big savings savings from or reductions that could occur in future funding if it's tackled early and if we've got a better understanding of the real capacity of these pavements.
But
Is
I'm
it feeling from the top or not?
Yeah, what I'm hearing is that we have a decade-long project ahead of us of renewal, which looks like and doesn't look less than $100 million in terms of the next 10 years needs to be invested before we can ease off the pedal. What are the councils, of the councils that you've seen in similar situations, how have they funded their renewal and refresh of their maintenance program?
They tap into grant funding, but they've also got probably a bit more substantial resources of their own than I'm seeing with yourselves. Now, suppose there were 2 or 3 I was going to look at, I'll see what I can quote, but just to put that in perspective and to benchmark the estimates. It's of that order, and obviously looking forward in intergenerational, everything in that, trying to do it sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it's a really big effort.
Councillors, do I have any further questions for Mr. Williams? Mr. Toole?
Questions of the director, ma'am, not of the gentleman.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your time. I can't guarantee that we won't get you back up in a moment, so if you could stay with us, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillors, our mover will now speak.
Questions of the director,
Certainly.
maybe before I speak, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, through you to the Director of Infrastructure and Assets. Director Cook, could a hybrid delivery model help the Yass Valley Council make better use of its workforce by focusing our crews on urgent customer requests, safety concerns and other time-sensitive work, while contractors deliver the larger planned works that can be programmed well in advance? And with that, noting I've given notice in this, what capability gaps could that model address, and what improvement might it provide in cost, productivity and overall service delivery?
Madam Mayor, and thanks for the question, Councillor Cherry. A hybrid model could work, but my preference would be to retain Council's 3 existing in-house maintenance grading crews and supplement their workloads with contractors. The general cost for a contractor to maintain a kilometre of road is substantially more expensive than our in-house crews. This model was working well a few years ago, but with the ongoing financial constraints and budget reductions, the contractor budget has been incrementally reduced from about $400,000 back to $100,000 per year. This budget does not allow enough contracted resources to attend to the urgent customer requests, safety concerns and other time-sensitive works. Put this in further context, a budget of $100,000 a year only achieves 2 maintenance grades per year on a 16-kilometre section of road. This does not include any works to improve road drainage or to undertake any gravel patching works. Given the Council has an effective length of more than 600 kilometres of unsealed roads requiring maintenance grading every year, it highlights the current deficit and massive funding gap. Furthermore, this figure excludes any capital works, as well as any critical maintenance areas such as curb and gutter repairs, culvert and drainage upkeep, field road network, including patching potholes, signage and guideposts, and other roadside vegetation management. The reinstatement of the previous maintenance grading contractor budgets would certainly assist us to achieve the desired maintenance grading service levels. As part of the upcoming QBR1, or the quarterly budget review process, I'll be requesting a budget increase of $300,000 to at least reinstate the maintenance grading contractor budget back to the previous budgeted amount.
Yeah, thank you. Quite comprehensive and appreciate that. Follow on to that relating to productivity. Question 2 that I have is the NTRO report identifies a significant gap between the number of working days available and the number of productive grading days achieved. What opportunities do you see as Director to make more efficient use of the staff, plant equipment and contractors so that we can increase the amount of works delivered each financial year? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks again for the question, Councillor Cherry. So the unproductive days are a product of a number of factors, including stand-down periods due to plant breakdowns, the redirection of resources to other under-resourced internal areas, unfavourable wet weather days, and staff personnel or sick leave. Ultimately, many of these variables are beyond Council's operational control. For council to improve the number of operational days, we need to allocate the required funding into our plant replacement program, ensure that the plant used for our maintenance grading programs is fit for purpose and reliable. Recently, we've had issues with a number of our ageing plants, such as our water carts and excavators, which are well overdue for replacement. We're fortunate enough to have a number of skilled operators who can step into the maintenance grading positions when key staff are on leave or away from work. This assists with our resources optimisation and reduces the number of days any one of our maintenance grading crews is inactive. We'll also be looking into the option of extending working hours during the daylight savings period to gain efficiencies by having more maintenance hours spent on our roads. As detailed in the report, the use of a wet and dry plant hire panel would assist council with backfilling plant and or contractors during time when council plant or operators are operationally unavailable. However, that would again require an additional budget allocation to be able to engage these resources.
I'll now give the opportunity for the mover to speak.
Ask a follow-up question.
Certainly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through Madam Mayor, to the Director of Infrastructure and Planning, you talk about, a significant underfunding over 8 years to some degree in that space, and that's what the report suggests to sort of 25% levels. That's two consecutive, in fact, 3 consecutive councils. Have councils been made aware of the likely impacts of that reduction in funding over time? And I suppose that, leading to the situation we're in today. So to what degree has there been awareness made of the implications of certain choices being made around the allocation of funding within budgets?
So through you, Madam Mayor, it really has come about in the last 2 or 3 years. So with the financial constraints of council, we have been reducing our budgets and generally staff numbers as well, to be able to fit in budget process. We're still putting forward deficit budgets. We have had to make savings in areas, and obviously the infrastructure area does spend the most money within the organisation. Unfortunately, roads has been on the hard end, or the sharp end of that. It's only been the last 12 months that we have really realised that the money we are spending, and as part of this report, that we are underspending at a factor of 2. We're underspending by 50% or more. Over the last 10 years, we have also reduced our staffing numbers. The operational transport infrastructure staffing numbers 10 years ago was around 35. We're back to 23. So it's 12 staffing positions which have been removed from the structure over that period of time, which does obviously make it difficult for us to perform and deliver the services we require to deliver.
A follow-up question as well. Thanks very much for that. It's very helpful. In relation to what you mentioned around sort of issues with existing infrastructure, this seems to not necessarily even account for that cost as well. Is that correct? Do you have an estimate of what that sort of figure would be to get the fleet up to the kind of requisite standard?
Madam Mayor, so I think the review that was undertaken by Morrison Lowe at the end of last year indicated we're about $3 or $4 million backlog in our plant replacement program. We do spend about 1.8 is budgeted this financial year to replace our plant, but with that $4 million backlog, we're only replacing a quarter of what we need to this year, and everything else continues to age in that same period of time. So we're fighting a losing battle, unfortunately.
Councillor Cherry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I speak to the substance of this motion, I'd like to acknowledge the collaborative approach that has brought us to this point. In particular, I'd like to thank Councillor Sess Burgess, Councillor David Rothwell and yourself, Madam Mayor, for the valuable input you have each provided in developing this motion. Councillor Burgess, as the longest serving member of Yass Valley Council, brings decades of experience and has been a tireless advocate of improving the maintenance of our local road network. Councillor Rothwell, as chair of the local traffic forum, brings practical insights into the issues affecting our road users every day across the Yass Valley, and your advocacy, Madam Mayor, at both the state and national levels for improved regional roads funding is well known and much appreciated. And your contribution has helped to strengthen this motion. I thank each of you for approaching this in a genuinely collaborative spirit and in the best interests of the Yass Valley community. I think that this report delivers 2 very important messages. I think we're pretty clear on that. The first one is encouraging. It confirms that our staff understand our road network. They have solid information and a genuine commitment to improve outcomes for our community. The second message is equally important, but not quite as bright, and that is severe lack of funding. For too long, regional councils across New South Wales have been expected to maintain increasingly large and ageing road networks without the level of investment required to do so sustainably. We are not alone in this endeavour. The NTR Road Review confirms that many of us have suspected for quite some time. We're not dealing with a productivity problem, we are faced with a systemic funding issue. That doesn't mean that we stop looking for improvements. Indeed, it's quite the opposite. And I'm sure that we all agree. This motion asks us to continue looking at how we can work smarter and get better value for our residents. It asks Yass Valley Council staff to compare our internal grading operations with contractor delivered works. It asks us to investigate opportunities to utilise local borrow pit materials. It asks us to improve transparency through better reporting to both council and the Yass Valley community. And importantly, it asks us to continue to implement the NTRO recommendations within budgetary constraints. I also believe it is important that we begin with an honest conversation about how we fund our roads into the future. Sadly, there is no silver bullet here. We're serious about maintaining the road network in the way that our community expects, and we must also be prepared to have an honest discussion about the long-term funding required to achieve that outcome. Madam Mayor, allow me to be blunt, please. This motion won't fix every road in the Yass Valley as a result, but it does provide us with a practical road map for a vast improvement. I believe that to be true. It recognises the solid work already being undertaken by our staff. It identifies opportunities for continuous innovative improvement. It promotes transparency and accountability. It continues our advocacy for sustainable funding that Regional New South Wales Council so desperately need. For those reasons, Madam Mayor, I commend the motion to the Chamber. Thank you.
Councillor Cherry. I'll now give the opportunity for the seconder to speak. Councillor Rothwell.
Well, I think Al said it all for us right there, hasn't he? NTRO did a good job on the report, and thank you, Council, for getting them. Appreciate it.
Councillor Stowe, any further speakers for this motion? Have a speaker against the motion?
Yeah, I'm querying. I can't see the motion fully.
Yes, I see your issue. If we can we reduce
It goes down
the
to-
size?
I can't see below 4. Thank you, Councillor Cherry, for passing that on.
Welcome, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you.
Which points would you like to
the
see next?
vegetation stuff I'm interested in.
Okay, so if we could, so we can see 7, 8, 9, that'd be great. Okay. And Councillor Cameron, if you're going to speak to this, if I could get you to rise while you speak. Thank you.
This amendment, from my understanding from the forum on the other night and the presentation, which appeared to be a workshop, but that's another issue, was because the issue of vegetation wasn't brought up in the report. I think it's okay to bring it up, but I think it's a little bit on the vague side of where we're talking about, and I'm not sure that's an operational matter, of course. But I would think that, from my understanding, there are people, and some of the land care groups are a bit interested in where this sort of thing happens because of native vegetation within the roadsides areas. And some people don't really want anything to happen on particular roads. So I realise that from a safety point of view, things have to be done. But the issue of spraying in particular does cause some concerns. I'll ask the director a question if I can. Through you. You have in mind where the vegetation aspect of this would be put in place in the say next 2 or 3 months.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the idea of the vegetation maintenance would be to remove some of the regrowth within the existing disturb zone. So with that 3 metres beside the edge of the road, I'm talking about taking trees or vegetation from those, really the regrowth, generally your tea tree and stuff like that is now right up the side of the road. For example, Murray-Bateman Road, Nanama Road, there's roads that the regrowth hasn't been hinged for the last 3 to 5 years, and it's now at a point where it's blocking sight lines along the edge of the road.
Okay, and going into Sutton, that sort of on Sutton Road, I've noticed that some of the growth's pretty moving in a bit there as well.
Generally that
So
tea
you've got,
trees.
so I'm just saying that this is a little bit vague, but you've outlined that well. Thank you.
And just to follow up with a bit of clarity around Councillor Cameron's comments, we in no way held a workshop. We had a presentation of a report, and that was live streamed. Also, I think it would be prudent for us to have a conversation with Landcare, who has taken on the contract with Link, because there could be some synergies with the work that they are doing as well. And if there's, because of the disturbance as well, might be prudent. Councillor Flannery.
Madam Mayor, I'm the Landcare rep for council.
Councillor Flannery. Do I have any further speakers for or against this motion? Councillors, I'll just, before I hand over to Councillor Cherry to close, I'd just like to, first of all, thank our executive team, particularly our CEO, for fast-tracking this roads review. I'd like to thank Councillor Rothwell for driving the issue of reform when it comes to roads. I don't think there is a day that has gone by that I have not received a phone call from Councillor Rothwell about how we can improve roads. And that translates to a phone call that I make to Gayleen. So I just want to thank our executive for everything that they have done to bring this to fruition. We have 1,200 kilometres that not only keeps our stock on the move to market, keeps our families safe or not, and it keeps our economic tourism opportunities alive or not. So this is important not just for us today, but for the businesses that are investing in our area. And we want to make sure that the axles on their trucks, aren't in rough shape because they have had to travel roads that haven't been graded in 3 years, and we promised we'd grade them every year. I would like to stand before our community, as I'm sure all of you do, and say we have done what we committed to do. And that is going to take some hard conversations about how we're going to fund it, but this is important to our community. They've told us it's important to our community, and we either have to pull back on the expectation, which I don't think any of us want to do. We want to get those roads safe, commit to the project, and this takes us in a direction that helps us look at how the funding is going to go. I might actually ask the CEO to make a few comments too.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, Madam Mayor, I would just like to thank the Mr. Toole and Mr. Williams for the hard work that they did and the expertise that they brought with them in developing this report for Yass Valley Council. So thank you. I would also like to thank our staff, particularly Director Nathan Cook, and the many staff who contributed information to inform the experts from the National Transport Research Organisation in being able to do this report. It requires, whenever a review is done, regardless of whether it's done with external help or not, it is a huge amount of work for council staff to be able to provide the documents they need and to make sure we're feeding really good information to our consultants to develop that work. So thank you.
So, Sherry, if there's no other further speakers for or against, I'll ask you to close.
Yeah, very quickly. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and very informally, no prepared speech for this one. Firstly, can I thank the CEO? The fact that people like Seth Burgess and David Rothwell live this, because they drive these roads daily, whenever I'm out and about, in particular in the Sutton and Gundaroo communities and Bookham in particular, this is by far the most important issue above all else, without question. And we saw that come out during the IPNR presentations that we did throughout the LGA. So I think the efforts of this chamber to ensure that we take the brilliant analysis conducted by the National Transport Research Organisation, and that's important to note, and then put them into practical effects, sends a very strong message to the Yass Valley community, is that we are willing to, first of all, accept the reality of the problem, understand where we sit with it, and then take active steps forward to find innovative solutions. And that's exactly what I believe this motion does. As I said before, I'd really like to thank Sess, I'd really like to thank David and yourself, Madam Mayor, because I think this takes us a fair way towards that outcome, regardless of our current financial situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cherry. Let's put this one to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to our report 6.1. The development application DA 260104, the manufactured dwelling, 92 Woodbury Drive. Thank you, gentlemen, by the way. Yeah. We have a recommendation before us that conditional development consent be issued for development application DA 260104 for a manufactured dwelling, carport and on-site sewage management system at 92 Woodbury Drive, Sutton. I have a mover of the motion. So moved. Councillor McGrath. Seconded. Councillor Cherry. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Cherry. Any questions? Any speakers against the motion? Councillor Cameron.
Sorry.
Just a question to the director, if I could please. I realise that we have had some conversations this morning about the whole issue. What sort of interested me a great deal about the recommendation is that at the forum, Liz Slapp, who was presenting on behalf of the proponent, remarked that the issue of the tree was raised by council staff and not the proponents of the DA. And I'm talking here about the Blakely's red gum, which is the defining overstory of the grassy woodland, which is seen as critically endangered as part of the ecological community. And there are strict environmental protections around that. So she raised that issue, and I read more carefully the briefing paper, and it said a condition can be included, a development consent for a tree modification project plan prior to any works commencing which impact the tree. So the question is sort of twofold. The first question is, currently there's no condition. Is there any condition in regard to the tree at the moment? First question.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to make sure that we were doing one question at a time, which works
we'll try
great for
one
me.
question
Thank you
at a
very
time.
much. The draft conditions that have been prepared and as an attachment to the report, in attachment F, do include a condition to that extent. However, if it is the decision of council, that can be removed.
All right. Now the second question is, it says prior to any works commencing which impact the tree. So if I was the proponent and wasn't interested really in doing anything with the tree, which seemed to be implied a little bit by Ms. Slapp, I could actually do the tree management plan and then do nothing.
Sorry, was that the question?
Question two.
Yep. Through you, Madam Mayor. In this, it's important to note that consents rest with the property rather than the owner. So this is also about ensuring that any future owners are aware of potential impacts in that space and have a way forward of looking at that, of mitigating impacts. So although there may not be a desire to undertake works at this point in time, it has been identified that there can be possible improvements to overall tree health and potential improvements to the risk of occupants, noting that it is over a veranda rather than a habitable area. So it's a minor condition that just provides a little bit of greater protection for the overall health and vitality of the tree, and B, it also provides for the risk mitigation for the future dwelling and future inhabitants of that dwelling, whether or not they're the current or future owner.
Okay, we're talking risk and legal liability, I presume, at the moment. I'm concerned that the person who made the assessment is the tree management officer.
Through you, Madam Mayor, correct?
Correct. Question 3. Question 4. I'm concerned about the qualifications of the person.
Excuse me.
You can go for it, yeah.
Okay. So, Councillor Cameron,
Yes.
it is against our code of meeting practice to unpack anything to do with our personnel.
Thank you for that. We talk about legal liability in that I'm just raising the question that I'm concerned a little bit that the assessment of the tree itself, the actual assessment may or may not be strong enough, I could put it that way, to provide protection from a legal from a legal point of view.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not prepared to debate merits of staff qualifications or otherwise in a public forum. I think it's inappropriate to be throwing staff under the bus when they're not here to defend themselves.
Can I?
Councillor Flannery's got some questions.
Okay. Yes. You.
Whole, I'm support the motion, but I want to ask some questions. Because the biocertification process is very arduous, and Director Neil, you use the words that the liability or the word rests with the property, not the owner, and that as such, I assume that the property, whoever manages the property, which would be the Woodbury Ridge people, have some legal right or some environmental control. That the owner of this land doesn't seem to be aware that there's a design review panel that could have short-tracked a whole lot of things. I think this report says it, well, if they went to the design review panel, that issues could have been resolved. Yeah, second last line, it says key planning issue would have likely been resolved, and that they put in an underground water tank and then they had to go back and do a survey. So my question to you is, why aren't the proponents, as part of the legal documentation, given something that says this is what you must do? Because it would have saved them a lot of time and money. It would have saved reduced our time. And so that's one question.
Well,
and
Councillor Flannery, if we can just go one question at a time, that would be
Okay,
very useful.
do I need to sit down?
Only if you choose.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes. So the presentation from the applicant's planning consultant on Tuesday night was very thorough in that regard. There were areas that were overlooked by the applicant in the first instance, the property owner in the first instance, in terms of seeking the review from the design review panel. These items should be noted on the 10.7 planning certificate that are issued with the sale of each property. It is up to the landowner to undertake that review or their conveyancer during purchase to ascertain all of that, as well as being identified during the planning phase, which it was. It is unfortunate that in this instance, they appear to have overlooked it. However, that's been resolved through the assessment process by making them consult with the appropriate body to get their approval for the finalised design.
Thank you. So do you feel that as a council, I understand Woodbury Ridge is like the first biocertification process in New South Wales. So I could be wrong, I could be corrected, but it's new. Is there something council needs to do to ensure that people that buy these parcels of land with habitat of significant value protected, and that we don't have to go through this in a piecemeal way every time? Is there something that you feel we need to do?
Through you, Madam Mayor, this, to my knowledge, is the first time that this issue has occurred on the Woodbury Ridge development site. There's a number of houses that have already been constructed through there. I can't speculate as to the reason why for this particular instance. However, it is something, as I mentioned, which is noted on the 10.7s, which should be where people pick up that there is this requirement to do that. And also during that assessment space, picked up at that point in time. So it is covered. It's just unfortunate that it has been overlooked in this instance by the property owner. However, it has been resolved and it has been rectified, and the appropriate body, being the Woodbury Ridge Design Review Panel, have now assessed the application, had their ability to provide the feedback, which has resulted in that move of the driveway away from the area they couldn't build on.
Thank you. And one final question. And I'm not singling out a person, but given we're dealing with biodiversity issues and ecology and a whole range of things, I'm unsure if the council's tree management officer is the right person with the right has the right qualifications to assess this. If I was an engineer and I'm not, and I'm a roads engineer, I wouldn't be assessing potentially. Just alerting council to the fact that perhaps we need someone with ecology ecological background to assess removing canopy or deadwooding trees is generally an aesthetic technique, because people look at a tree and go, oh, it's got some dead branches. It might hold very important habitat, and so I just feel that step with caution there.
Yeah, I'm more than happy.
I think the director has the answer right away.
I have, through you, Madam Mayor, absolutely. In this particular instance, it was just focused on the tree from an overall health and potential risk to the structure. I completely take your point in terms of the broader ecological impacts. One of the roles in the new structure is for a natural resource and sustainability officer. For sites such as this, which do have key ecological values, it'd be very beneficial to have that officer, once they are appointed, undertake that review, and that is a role we are seeking to recruit.
We could hire in an ecologist as needed.
And that is what we did do during the overall assessment of the subdivision to ensure that we did the appropriate work in that space, leading to the first BAM accredited development site in the state, which we were widely commended for back in 2016. We did all that work at that point in time with the ecologists to really specify those key features and key trees. This is more looking at an individual tree to ensure that the long-term vitality and the long-term safety of residents is protected. So it's much more of a focused look at one particular tree, but I do take your point regarding hollows and the like.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery, for the questions. Do we have any further speakers for or against this motion? Councillor Cameron.
I have a further question. I just noticing, and I am going back to the tree management officer at the moment.
I prefer.
No, not talking about qualifications or anything.
Excellent. Carry on.
Thank you. I'm just reading in the business papers that the council tree management officer has recommended modifications to the canopy, including removal of the live canopy extents at the end of branches. Minor. Removal of canopy wood. Fine. Retention of existing.
It's not.
Oh, okay. Retention of existing. Good one. Retention of existing large diameter branches with hollows or hollow forming activity. Fine. Removal of epicormic growth from the trunk and branches. I had to look up what the word epicormic meant.
That part is fine.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no mention of the removal of the recommendation by the tree management officer, who has been hired by Yass Valley Council. Lots of good reasons, I'm sure. Not saying anything about taking down the limb of the tree, the side branch, the big side branch. So there's no recommendation there from him about that. Could you comment, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the recommendation is about limiting the weight on the on the tree limb. A bit of a portmanteau there. Tree limb, not trim. Yeah, trim. So it's about removing some of the weight on that to reduce the overall potential risk, as I mentioned, to tree safety and the dwelling. It's not significant works; it's very minor works, just to remove a bit of that weight.
So it's minor work. Sorry.
And Councillor Cameron, if you take the report holistically, in that we're talking about the fall zone of the tree, and the greatest factor in that is that section
That branch.
that has been pulled out into the report.
But what's going to happen is going to be minimal. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, they will be required to provide the tree modification project plan to council for our review prior to us approving any works on that tree.
Final question. It will be the final one.
For the meeting, excellent. Carry on.
One to you. Get back later. Just ask, so who does that report? Can it be anybody, or is it going to be the tree management person who they've already been dealing with?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that report will need to be prepared by an external consultant on behalf of the applicant and then assessed by council.
Councillors, if there's no further speakers for or against, let's give the opportunity for the mover to close. All right, let's put this. Councillor McGrath and Councillor Cherry moved that one. Let's put it. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item 6.2, the development consent for DA 240276, the draft voluntary planning agreement for 29 lot subdivision, 2402 Sutton Road, Sutton. We have a recommendation in the business paper or something from the floor.
Madam Mayor, happy to move the recommendation as it stands.
As it stands, okay. Councillors, we have the recommendation up before us. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Do we need a second?
Oh, that would help. Seconder, thank you. You have one. Deputy Mayor. Councillor Cherry, you have the floor.
Before I speak, Madam Mayor, may I ask a question of the Director through the CEO, if I may? Director of Planning and Environment, Mr. Neal, if we had an exchange over email leading to obviously some concerns that I had that I alluded to of questions of Ms. Liz Stensley on Tuesday at the public forum. Can you, and they were relating to the $245,000 cap of that is included in the VPA, and I guess on first reading, my concern is that should the proponent or should the developer reach a point where they get to that cap, does that raise substantial financial risk for Yass Valley Council, noting that we are ultimately going to be the owners of that infrastructure piece? But I guess I don't want to get too much into it. I'd like your thoughts on that to assure the wider public of what the risks that I'll be alluding to.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thanks for the question. It's been a lot of backwards and forwards on this particular VPA to ensure that we are dealing with this appropriately and not creating potential future risk for future residents and current residents within Sutton. So the original proposal was to just have a straight capped contribution value with no real ability to look at that if there was any cost overruns in that space. However, following negotiation with the developer in this space, it was agreed that they could be the ability to negotiate additional costs if they were fair and reasonable in terms of being worn by additional construction costs or unforeseen site circumstances and things like that that might pop up at the site. So they can be negotiated and increased as part of that discussion if appropriate. However, if it is as a result of, for example, council over-specifying the requirements given the number of lots which is serviced, then it would not be so willing to be entered into discussions in that space. So it provides a bit of protection to the developer that they've got surety around the final product, but it also provides that certainty to council that we are aware of what we are getting in that space and that it is appropriate for the location.
Councillor Cherry.
Madam Mayor, thank you, and thank you, Director Neal. Really appreciate your response there. Madam Mayor, I'm supporting the staff recommendation on this item because, as you are acutely aware, I've taken a particularly close interest in this development from the very beginning on behalf of the Sutton community. During consideration of the original development application, I strongly advocated for pedestrian connectivity, including the shared pathway and pedestrian bridge, to be part of the approval, much like yourself and Deputy Mayor Butler did for Murray Bateman with the discussion point that we had last meeting. That infrastructure wasn't an afterthought. It was included because it is fundamental to creating a safe, connected Sutton community and ensuring residents of the new development on Sutton Road can move between their neighbourhood and the village without relying solely on their vehicles. As councillors, we have an obligation to ensure that the commitments made through the planning process are ultimately delivered. For that reason, I spent considerable time deliberating the provisions of this VPA, and my concern isn't really about the developer's intent of capping the overall cost at $245,000. And on that, I'd like to thank Ms. Liz Stensley for her public assurances on Tuesday at the public forum. Rather, it was whether Yass Valley Council could inadvertently assume an unreasonable financial risk if circumstances changed during project delivery. I raised those concerns directly with Director of Planning, Mr. Andrew Neal, and I appreciate the detailed explanation that he gave to me, and I appreciate the response to my question that he has just presented. And Mr. Neal has obviously assured us that this VPA was deliberately drafted to address precisely that issue. I also accept that the provisions recognise legitimate increases in construction costs, while ensuring there are reasonable limits where delays and scope changes occur beyond what was originally contemplated. I believe that strikes an appropriate balance. Importantly, it also reflects the developer's experience in delivering public infrastructure elsewhere in the LGA and provides a practical framework that is consistent with other VPAs. that gives me confidence that this VPA will achieve what is intended. Most importantly, it gives me confidence that the shared pathway and pedestrian bridge remain central to the outcome for the Sutton community. I'd like to thank our planning staff for working through those issues and for the advice that they have provided. It's exactly the sort of constructive dialogue that should occur before council is asked to make decisions of this nature. For those reasons, I'm very pleased to support this motion. I commend it to you, my fellow councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chari. Councillor Butler, would you like to speak to that one? All right. Any speakers for or against this motion? Flannery.
I understand that the developer wants to have a capped contribution, and they did also talk about the bridge at Murray Bateman, them coming up with surprise costs that they weren't aware of. In just a really broad sense, and I'm not against someone making a profit, but my estimates the profit out of this subdivision is in the range of 8 to 12 million. And I just think we could perhaps say cap it at 300,000. I don't know how they've come up with the value of the bridge or to cap it at that amount. And we know, well, I don't know if we know, but it was reported that the bridge at Murray Bateman is 300,000 or 400,000. It does leave us exposed, or us as a council and the community exposed, and that we've asked for this bridge to be more, to allow for greater accessibility. I think should err on the side of caution, and if the bridge comes in at 200,000 or 150,000, that's great, but let's not leave the liability more in the council's camp than the developer's camp, because if I know there's a lot of risk in developing and there's a lot of time and money. I really feel that given that our community and our council doesn't have an extra $80,000, $100,000 to spend, something that we look at and go, if we asked for it to be capped, it's not saying that's what they have to spend. So I urge the councillors to amend this motion slightly to raise the cap on it.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Have any further speakers for this motion? The opportunity to the mover to close. All right, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour of 6.2? That's Councillors Carter, Carey, Jones, Burgess, Butler, Rothwell, McGrath. All those against? Councillors Flannery and Cameron. The motion is passed. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item 6.3. which is the Murray Bateman track site determination. Councillor
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment.
You have the floor, so it's a fresh motion from you. No amendments necessary.
So I would like to add a dot point. So dot point 2 to the current recommendation reads that council contact the Murray Bateman Pump Track Club Inc. personally to advise of the resolution and organise an initial planning meeting no later than August the 31st.
Yeah.
2026.
To the master plan.
If I could just quickly ask a question about the practicality on that, is that to the executive?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's entirely in the hands of the pump track. That will just be a preliminary scoping discussion to ascertain some baseline data on that. We couldn't provide detailed commentary for a DA in that time. We can definitely have that initial concept discussion meeting.
Thank you, Director. Can I seek a seconder for that? The hands are going. Councillor Butler and Councillor Rothwell got that one.
I am so happy to speak in support of the recommendation before us. The right recommendation. To endorse the Southern Sand Arena for the Murray Bateman Pump Track. There is a long history here. I'd like to speak briefly on exactly that. First, what this is not. This is not a thought bubble. A BMX or pump track facility has been sought in Murrum Bateman for more than a decade, identified as far back as 2013, and budgeted for by this very council to the tune of $35,000 in 2017, money that was never spent. I have personally sat on working group after working group to get something like this off the ground and watched it stall every single time. So if anyone suggests that this is a rushed project, I gently point out that 12 years is a very slow rush. What changed is that the community stopped waiting for us. Pump Track Club built an executive of skilled and capable people, commissioned their own professional concept design, and have not asked this council for a single cent to build it. They've done the consultation, they have raised their own initial funds, and they ask for one thing: certainty. The evidence we have been provided to date backs the recommended site. Council's own staff analysis and the focus group that this council established both landed on the Southern Sand Arena on the objective criteria. Then there is a petition. More than 300 residents who did not click a box from their couch, but physically put a pen to paper to say that they want a pump track on this arena. With respect, a signed petition of that size tells us more than an online survey that landed all but tied. That is the community speaking plainly, and we should not wave it away. On the site itself, the Northern Equestrian Precinct is complete, and it hosts national competitions. The organised horse clubs have mostly moved north, and our recreation ground strategic plan already flags this arena for redevelopment. The cross-country course sits well clear and the winery trail runs alongside, and we have a team of pump track experts telling us that this is the perfect site. This is a council asset, and we are not losing a thing. We are turning a lightly used arena into a facility that will serve hundreds and draw visitors to our region. Neighbouring user groups back it. The school backs it. We are not subtracting, we are adding. And on the master plan, I know its absence frustrates some, but a master plan is not a precondition, and it is certainly not a veto. Every outstanding project in our recreation grounds strategic plan has already been endorsed by council, adopting this plan in November 2025. Projects get built when user groups get on with the job, just like the tennis club have, just like the AFL club have, just like the Scouts have, and just like Little Athletics and others have. These projects are not council's burden to carry alone. As for division, division is a normal part of community life. Even with a master plan, we will have division. Our job, once due process has been followed, and it has, is to weigh it up and decide for the community of today and tomorrow. This project has done the process. It has the evidence, the experts, the community, and the goodwill. What it needs now is us. I want to point out as well that this is only a site selection. Any infrastructure that is built on this site will be subject to the same DA processes that any other infrastructure project needs to go through, including public consultation and meaningful design. Many questions raised in the submissions cannot be answered until we get to that stage, and it is not feasible or acceptable for a not-for-profit group to spend thousands of dollars on strategic planning on a site that has no certainty. It's a classic chicken egg situation here. I commend the recommendation to council and I encourage councillors to all please support it.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Would the seconder like to speak? Councillor Roth.
What she said, plus it'll be a magnificent thing for the Murray Boatman community and wider community. And let's help get it built.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Councillor Flannery.
Councillor Butler and Councillor Rothwell, thank you for your suggestions and endorsement. I kind of was thinking, am I going to say this, am I going to change my mind? But I've thought about this for a long time and it's really kind of upset me in many ways. So I'm speaking against the motion not because I don't want recreational assets in Murray Bateman, not because I don't think they're needed, not because the community do or don't want them. I'm voting against it because, and I'll probably lose, it doesn't really bother me, but I want to state this. We are voting for a mismatch. We're not voting for a clear process. We're not voting for a transparent process. We're not voting for a consistent process. Now, what I'd like to do is invite all the councillors to reset the agenda with the community and with each other, because I feel personally that there's been a fair bit of spite going back and forth. I'd like to give the community confidence that we as a council acknowledge the decisions and planning for the path, think about how our planning tools can and will be used, agree on priorities and provide a forum for procedural fairness, for timelines that we can manage rather than pitting groups against each other, wasting, as you've said, Councillor Butler, countless hours, years. Our processes, through council's processes, we've created tension, we've perpetuated an environment of competition where there are winners and losers. I understand that it's good to have people have robust discussions. I just don't think that this is one where we've had that real tease out of discussions. I've tried to identify a location since I've been on council almost 2 years now, a playground, a pump track, a path, multiple chopping up of subdivisions. What is going on at Murray Bateman, because Murray Bateman's a development area, because we don't have a clear master plan and we don't have a plan. Now, what I was really curious about, and honestly, hardly anyone in Murray Bateman voted for me, so I'm just going to say this. I really tried to stay out of Murray Bateman issues, but I'm just going to delve into it because I've spent countless hours trying to think about this. In 2025, the Murray Bateman Rec Ground Strategic Plan was endorsed by this council. Yeah, nearly everyone voted for it, including you, Councillor Burgess. Now, I've read that plan so many times I could almost recite the pages, but I'm going to recite the page number 17 because it refers to, under the heading equestrian, it refers to the development of the Southern Sand Arena in accordance with broader community consultation and subject to council endorsement. So I looked through this plan. I looked and I looked and I looked. I did not see anywhere that there was pump track, BMX track. Yet there's a mayoral minute in, I think, 2018 that says, and I'm just going to reference it, and I'm probably going to get the bell to sit down soon, that a BMX track for Murray Bateman.
3 more minutes, Councillor, you're absolutely
Council
fine.
is currently undertaking consultation with the Murray Bateman community regarding interest specifications and suitable locations for a BMX track. The results of the public consultation will then be included as part of the Murray Bateman master plan process. There was a council vote. Mayor Jones, you voted on it and you agreed to it. Councillor Burgess, you also agreed to it. The decision about the BMX track should be part of the master plan process. So I take your point, Councillor Butler, that we don't need a strategic plan, but what's the point in doing plans if we're not going to use them? Why did we not look at the plan in November, 6 months ago, and go, God, we're missing the BMX track, we're missing the pump track. Why did we not tell it? There's a park at Murray Bateman called Jones's Park, and both Sue and Peter are, good friends, associates. And they have rung me and said, no one has bothered to speak to us. So that they're going to be 100% affected by this, whatever it is. Under the heading equestrian, it's not mentioned. So 100% affected, and they've not been spoken to. They can be spoken to through the DA process. But let's grow up, let's be mature, let's have a discussion about the whole of Murrum Bateman. Let's put that 30,000 towards a master plan. Director Neil, at one of the other meetings, you said to me, I love a plan. I love it when the council works to a plan. That's all I'm asking. The only thing I'm asking is, yes, let's have a whole range of recreational assets. Let's have a holistic approach. Let's stop these countless hours of, we want this here, we want this here. Let's have a good discussion about the needs analysis. Is it one for the community? Is it the pump track for larger areas? How's the parking? How's the crossing of the roads? Let's not make future problems. I don't know if many of you read that at North Sydney, they had a pool that needed a heritage pool that needed a redevelopment, 23 million, I think was the costing, and it came up with 100 million. How do we know without a good needs assessment, without a master plan, this isn't just going to be an endless concern for our council? All I'm asking is for you, Madam Mayor Jones, is to do what you voted on in 2018, get the pump track, get the BMX track considered as part of a master plan process. It's not you're saying it's now not. Are you counting the numbers because it now might be void? Because if it's void, you've referred to other things in here that papers. I'm going to close by saying council uses the word strategic. It is not strategic just to report on what people said. The majority of the people said, or the response is that they would prefer it to go in Hawthorn. Yet in the analysis, strategic analysis, Hawthorn is discounted. So why did we ask anyone? It just is ludicrous to me that we ask the community something, then decide in the analysis it's not working. So I urge the council not to support this, not because we don't need it or want it, to be true to what you voted for before, to be true to what we need to do, to have a master plan. Get the master plan, get all our energies directed into that master plan, and make Murrum Bateman a town where everyone knows what's happening, where they are, and the best facilities for it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. And since you directed a few of those questions at me, I will respond to your questions.
I didn't realise I did. I was just recycling.
I'll take them as needing answering then. You
don't have to.
No?
No.
Councillor Flannery, I insist. I'll ask for your silence while I answer your questions, since you brought me into disrepute into this council meeting. If you're asking why I want to get on with the job. Excuse me, Councillor Cameron. Excuse me, Councillor Cameron. Please be seated, Councillor Flannery. You have asked me at least 5 rhetorical questions. Please be seated. Please be seated.
I did not bring you into disrepute.
When the chair stands, there will be silence and I will respond. It is in my opinion that after asking at least 5 rhetorical questions, where I have been named Mayor Jones several times, bringing me into your specific arguments, I have a right of reply to the questions raised. Why am I not honouring a resolution from 2018? So 8 years ago, I agreed to master planning of Hawthorn or the rec grounds for something like this to happen. The answer is in the numbers that I just counted on my hand. 8 years. So the 10-year-olds that I met with back then are now adults. Some of them could probably drive to Canberra to pick up their bikes to carry on. Some of them that I met in 2013 probably have kids of their own by now. So in answer to your question, Councillor, I think it's entirely appropriate that Councillor Burgess and I support the recommendation in the business paper, but I'll had to speak for and against that later on. Councillors, do I have a speaker for the motion? Councillor Carter,
Can I ask a couple of questions, if you don't mind, Madam?
carry on.
Through to you, Madam Mayor, to the Director of Planning and the Environment. I just wanted to spend some time understanding your process with respect to, or your staff's process with respect to the criminal prevention through environmental design decision. Could you advise us how often or how many times you met with local police with respect to determining that decision?
Through you, Madam Mayor. For this specific project, we did not meet with the local police in this instance. This is different to the assessment of the original playground, as at that point of time, council had no trained members of staff who had been trained in the crime prevention through environmental design process. Since that time, we do have the staff appropriately trained in that, so they were able to undertake the assessment in-house.
A follow-up question, Madam Mayor. Can you explain then, please, what additional surveillance features have been added to the recreation grounds since May of 2025?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there is no additional surveillance items as such. What has changed, however, is the nature of the user groups and the nature of the type of proposal that's proposed there. Because it is a different form of development rather than a playground which is specifically for younger children, it poses a different risk profile and it's been assessed as such. If it was a playground and we're looking at it being a playground as of now, that SEPTED would still stand. Because it's a different development type, we looked at it with fresh eyes.
Can I speak briefly, if you're
Speaking for the motion?
probably against the motion, I think, actually, the particular one. I just want to...
Sorry,
sorry,
Councillor Carter. You asked a question and I was in turn to do a speaker for, but you will certainly get that opportunity once I've had a speaker for, if there is another speaker for. Councillor Cherry.
Mayor, happy to speak for, very happy to speak for the recommendation, as a matter of fact. As a Murray Bateman resident, I am really, really disappointed in so many ways because of the deep divide that this debate has brought out. We're at a point in Murray Bateman where we should be celebrating this. We're about to get a playground, mainly due to the advocacy of our Deputy Mayor. We are on the verge. We're about to make a decision about a Murray Bateman punt track, an advocacy effort that has been ongoing by people like the gentleman in the room today, Mr. Matt Baker, for over 20 years. And this is something that really, really, I guess, it really places me in an extremely uncomfortable situation because I feel that we should almost be going to the point of really, really thanking so many people here for the advocacy that has been conducted to get us to this point. At the very first point when this discussion came to our attention, I was a little bit confused because it was introduced as part of the playground debate. But I've taken almost 2 years of deliberation on this particular topic. And I've come to the conclusion on my own values that I believe this to be an excellent idea. And not only that, the current location where we are about to vote on, that being the Southern Sandera Inn, is the best option. And it really shocks me to hear that a lot of people who are opposing this were exactly the same people that said we should put a playground there. Yeah. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. And I'm really disappointed that those people are perpetuating the deep divide within my own community. Kristen Butler and myself live in Murray Bateman. We both support this wholeheartedly. And I urge every councillor in this room to really think what is best for the entire Murray Bateman. Yes, there are groups of volunteers that represent pockets of the community, not the entire community. There are families within Murray Bateman that are crying out for recreational space. We saw it on Tuesday. Little Luca Patton in here, and we received a letter from the principal of the primary school telling us just how much positive feel there is amongst the school community. We would be doing them a disservice by kicking this can down the road and not supporting them. And for those that say that we are not following the process, I fundamentally disagree. I commend the staff on the transparency and accountability and the depth of analysis that has been presented to us, because this is what it looks like. Not only in a Western democratic nation, this is what it looks like. well done to Director Neil and your staff to presenting this recommendation to us, because this is exactly what should happen when a group of very community-minded and spirited people do the right thing for their community. This is what it looks like. This is what right looks like. I'm extremely disappointed to hear the argument that the Murray Bateman Master Plan is the thing that we should use as a reason to kick this can down the road. It is of no coincidence that we're about to get a Murray Bateman Master Plan. Kristen Butler and myself have been singing that tune ever since we got elected to this term. So I'm sorry, if you're going to use that as a reason for us not to approve this, then I finally meant to disagree with you, because as Councillor Flannery alluded to, the Murray Bateman Rec Ground Strategic Plan says specifically, and I'm really glad that Councillor Flannery brought this up to our attention, because I will quote exactly the same passage. I don't care that it says equestrian precinct. It specifically says, Madam Mayor, point of order. This is inappropriate conduct by Councillor Cameron continuously. I'm speaking for...
Rest.
Could you not put your hand
Yeah.
on there, please?
Madam Mayor,
Councillor Cameron, Councillor Flannery, if you give the speaker time and space and silence, you won't need to be brought to order. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I
Councillor Flannery.
I was silent. I just didn't want
My
to hand
apologies.
over my head.
my
I
apologies,
just found
Councillor
that
Flannery. I
quite...
didn't mean to do that, but Councillor Cameron's conduct is just appalling. Yes, always.
Wings in, Councillor Cherry.
Okay, so I quote, point 3, development of Southern Stand Arena in accordance with broader community consultation and subject to council endorsement. Look at it. This is it. Take a big whiff. This is exactly what we're doing. Sorry, but any other interpretation of that paragraph is completely out of context. So, Madam Mayor, this is a very, very contentious emotive issue. You can tell by the emotive tone in Councillor Butler's and my speech, because I believe this to be the right thing, and I believe that every one of us should be really seriously looking at what the best possible outcome is for the entire Murray Bateman community, not just pockets of it. Thank you.
Councillor Cherry.
Good on you.
Councillor Carter, it's your opportunity now. Thank you.
With some trepidation about arms being thrown at me, I will respond. I do thank Councillor Butler in particular for advocacy on this project, and Councillor Cherry and others that have been particularly active in the discussion around the pump track. I do think it is an important development for the Murray Bateman community. I'm excited by the development itself. My thanks again to those that have advocated for it passionately over time. There is, of course, a need for continual development facilities right across our region. So I do want to thank everyone that's been involved in this. I do want to just note, of course, that disagreement is part of democracy. So people are allowed to say things like they don't like it or they don't want it. That's legitimate. And I think we need to be careful about trying to constrain people from presenting their viewpoints on matters of debate before council. And I feel there's attempts here to potentially do that at one level, and that worries me. My point around this motion is simply around safety. And my thanks to Director Neil for at least responding to some of those questions, which is important. But I do note when we were asked around a playground discussion, and I quote from May 2025, it does say that referring to the Murray Bateman Recreation Ground and this particular site that we're talking about with respect to the pump track, it does say that existing facilities such as the tennis courts, equestrian facilities, etc., are used on a periodical basis and have no constant passive surveillance. It then says the location also has 24/7 access public toilet facilities to one end, which attracts travellers passing through and along the Barton Highway. The general location also has advertised free camping, which again will attract travellers, non-local community members who could more likely include persons committing acts of antisocial or criminal behaviour. Now that was the discussion in May of last year, and hence my question about what has changed since then, because the analysis here was that the recreation ground has numerous passive surveillance opportunities and activated spaces adjoining the potential site, and therefore significantly reduces the risk of antisocial behaviour of occurring. Now, the police were concerned about this last time when we discussed this particular site, and it seems strange that suddenly it's now, it's going to be fine. There's no antisocial behaviour going to happen in this particular place. Now, the conversations is that, and there are different types of antisocial behaviour. I do remember a number of instances where people have talked about antisocial behaviour at our own bike facilities or skate park facilities just up the road near the swimming pool, for example. So unfortunately, these things do occur. And so I was surprised at the report suggesting that that wouldn't actually happen or would be significantly reduced, because to me, there seems to be quite a significant change in the last 12 months or so, which doesn't seem to be accounted for with respect to the particular conversation that's happened. And so, it seems strange to say that there's limited passive facilities, but now there's numerous. And so in that sense, that's my simple concern here. This was a public asset, it's a council asset. Antisocial behaviour is going to include maintenance costs for us, and I don't see that necessarily being considered within the broader report itself. So on that basis, unfortunately, I found the report hard at that level from a safety perspective to fully understand for the community. I do hope this is built. I'm excited by it. I'm just not sure if this is the right space. Thank you.
Councillor Carter. I'll just check in with the director through the CEO if there's a response there that you would like to.
You, Madam Mayor, fully note your comments in that space, and SEPTED is a very interesting space in that. From that position, I think it's important to note that the context of the ratings regarding SEPTED and the ratings involved in that were based on a comparative rating of the sites rather than a blanket statement. So the site had higher opportunities for surveillance than the other two sites that were looked at based on proximity of other users that may activate the space.
Councillors, do I have any further speakers for the motion? Councillor McGrath.
Madam Mayor, I better say something, I guess. I think I'm a strong believer in council and community partnerships. And we've got a strong and committed, enthusiastic group ready to run with something like this. I think it's something that shouldn't be kicked down the road. I think we should grasp the opportunity with both hands. I mean, even tonight, on tonight's business paper, we've got a couple of items up the swimming pool, for instance, the work that's being done out there, being done by volunteers. If we didn't have the swimming club kicking us along, it wouldn't be where we are down there. We've got the Rotary Lookout, voluntary group. We've got volunteers in Murrumbateman prepared to take on the task. I think we should give them the opportunity to show us what they can do. So I support the recommendation.
Councillor McGrath. Do I have any further speakers against the motion? Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Recently, I had contact with a community member, made the following comment that talking about the issue, made the following comment that Hawthorn should be looked at for the development of many things. And it seems to me as though in some ways Hawthorn has somehow gone out of view to a large extent. And they suggesting that everything should be placed onto the recreational ground is ridiculous. It doesn't and won't work, especially if it means impacting on other events and other groups within the rec ground. The development's not going to happen overnight because it's going to be at an estimate a costing of $1 million or so if it's going to be built to the standard that's been suggested on another couple of areas. So there's no real funding source at the moment, and I think grants aren't going to make $1 million. If you get a grant for 100,000, 200,000, really unusual. So I think there's, despite what Councillor Butler has said, I don't see that there is a rush to get this project up and running at this stage. I take a point. That certainty is one of the things that the group would be looking for. But on another thing, you've mentioned that it's not going to be a single cent asked of council. Initially, I suppose you mean initially, but it's the opportunity cost. Once you start putting something in like that, it does take away from other possibilities. I agree with the sentiment at Murrumbateman. The master plan should have been completed years ago. But I think it should now be pushed ahead in conjunction with the settlement plan. And the settlement plan is going to take some time, but I think the master plan can be sort of piggybacked on the settlement plan, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months behind. And that would give the master plan some focus of getting done within time. What does the master plan offer? It offers a strategic approach and something missing in Murrum Bateman for decades. You know, when I talk to people about Murrum Bateman, they talk about the development over time has been piecemeal and ad hoc, and it appears like that, and it doesn't sort of hang together particularly well. I'm also concerned that a rejection of a majority vote, and granted it was a slim majority, not seen as a positive for community perception. Councillor Cherry was talking about democracy. Usually democracy means the majority vote wins. And any future votes are going to be looked at in a little bit of a more cynical viewpoint. I think this, coupled with the recent rejection of the stakeholders talking about the Murrum Bateman path in their view in regard to the path in the rec ground, is not really very satisfactory for Murrum Bateman people in terms of their view of the community and the council and how the council works for the community. I think by making this decision now, we will be cementing in division, maybe for decades to come. Holding off and holding a real discussion on the issues would ensure that council plays a positive role forward on the issue and in regard to the division within the community. So I think in the community action plan, they talk about having town hall meetings, etc., to suss out these sort of issues, and I think that's the way we should have gone forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Do I have any further speakers for the motion?
I have a question.
Councillor Burgess.
Yeah, I'll be voting for it because I think it's the best thing for Murrum Bateman, for the young kids to ride. And I think Councillor Blunt has said most of it, and Councillor Cherry, pretty good. And they live down there. I live in Gundaroo. There's a bike track in Gundaroo in the park that the locals just built themselves. I don't know whether they use it much now, but it's there.
Thank you, Councillor Burgess. Do I have any further speakers against the motion? Councillor Flannery, you've already spoken to this item.
Question.
Councillor Flannery, you've already spoken to this item, and unless it was something incredibly urgent, like we were about to spend $1 million on something, I strongly resolve that it's done for your time on this issue. Do we have any further speakers against the item? I will speak for the item. What I've seen over the last 14 years as my time as a councillor on this issue is that we have a very committed community. They just need the space to get on with the job. Murrum Bateman is a very independent, active, dynamic community. We have seen them create incredible organisations, tennis clubs, little athletics, out of the very dust of that recreation ground. And they have made community, and they have made our families more resilient because of it. This is another opportunity, not just for Murrum Bateman, but for our whole region. Let's not forget that we've been told by the Office of Local Government to pull every lever and not to start any project ourselves that we can't identify funding for. So there's going to be a lot of sweat and hard work for this community before they can get to the sweet ride that's ahead. And I just wish them wind at their back, oil on their chain, and air in their tyres as they push on with this.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what gets constructed, because I know it's going to happen, because the people behind it. Councillors, I'll now put over to our mover, Councillor Butler, to close.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. I did have a close. However, it was just a reiteration of what we've spoken about today, so I won't bore everyone. And what I would ask is that everyone just Members, my opening and Councillor Charry's speech is the closing, and we will share it, and then that just rounds out everything.
Well, I appreciate your succinctness, Councillor Butler. All right, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Councillors Charry, Jones, Burgess, Butler, Rothwell, McGrath. All those against? Councillor Carter, Councillor Flannery, Councillor Cameron.
Yes! There you go,
Motion
matey.
has passed.
Thank you, guys.
Councillors, moving on to item 6.4, the Environmental Planning and Assessment Statement of Expectation Orders 2026. Councillor Butler.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I have an alternate motion.
Pleased to see it.
I have sent it to Katie. I'll read it out. Oh, it is up. Is it up there?
Yeah, it will be.
Okay. It is quite different to noting, just noting the information. So let me read it out, and I would love the opportunity to explain how this has come about. It is 1, that Council notes the updates and information contained within the report. 2, the CEO be directed to amend the Yass Valley Council Development Control Plan to increase the number of submissions that require a determination to be made by Council from 4 to 10 unresolved and unique submissions. 3, the amended DCP be placed on public exhibition for 14 days. And 4, a report be presented back to Council following public exhibition in the event that any unresolved material objections are raised. It's a bit different, isn't it?
Can we see this, sir?
Thank you. I know, I've got allergies. I've already taken a Telfast. Thank you.
Very emotional.
I know.
It's an emotional day.
It's most people going.
Thank you, like that, Andrew.
I'm just going to send it around.
I can send it too if we need.
It says knee motion, it should read new motion. Don't know why I did that.
Bit of Irish emotion, isn't it?
There you go. All right, councillors, I think there's probably enough time to review the 4 points. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Rothwell.
So I know that this is quite different, but on the 1st of July, the state government moved the goalposts again. Our assessment expectation times dropped from 105 days down to 90 days. But what didn't arrive alongside those new targets was an extra planner or even $1 extra. To their credit, our staff have already done the hard work. They've gone from 169 days last July to 121 days today, a 48-day improvement. Monthly KPIs, admin work shifted off planners, legacy applications cleared out, and incomplete applications sent back so they didn't clog up the system anymore. But they have squeezed the lemon dry, which leaves only one lever left, and it's ours. It's the DCP. Our own DCP says that 4 unresolved submissions sends a DA to this chamber, or in the last year alone, 10 DAs have come here purely because they crossed that threshold. Those 10 alone added around 500 days to our cumulative assessment times. Had we been sitting at 10, our average today would be about 109, not 121 days. Now, here is what does not change. Notification stays exactly the same. I am a passionate advocate for everyone being able to have their say. Every neighbour still gets told, every submission still gets written, and everyone still gets read, weighted, and considered against the LEP, the DCP, and the relevant legislation. Not a single resident loses the right to speak to council. The only thing that changes is who signs the determination. And that's a team of qualified and dedicated planners who we employ to precisely do that job. Planning forums will remain untouched at 10 plus submissions. And any 4 of us can still call in a DA if we want. There is nothing novel about this. Snowy Monaro, Bega Valley, Goulburn Mulwaree and QPRC all sit at 10, with Eurobodalla and Hilltops going even further again. Every one of our CRJO neighbours has worked this out. Safeguards are built into this motion, 14 days on public exhibition, and if a material objection comes out of it, it comes back to us. This costs nothing. No grant, no new rate variation, no new position to be created. It gives our planners hundreds of days back and gets our residents their approvals potentially months sooner. And it moves us towards the minister's targets without asking our staff to do the impossible. Every voice is still heard. We're just trusting the people that we pay to listen. I would ask each of you to seriously consider this motion as a major win for both our community and the council. Thank you.
Councillor Butler. Would the seconder like to speak?
Just like to say well done to Director Neil on the reduction in time so far, and well done to you, Kristen, Deputy Mayor, bringing this to council. It's great.
Councillors, do I have any speakers against the motion?
A question.
Councillor Flannery.
I'm supportive of the motion as read. I am very interested in the number of days, the 169 reduction to 114. Asked on at least 3 occasions. I would like some metric to see if the number of applications, have reduced or increased, or just the number of days.
Through you, Mayor Jones, I believe it was the June council meeting. That report was provided, the quarterly update for DA statistics, and that did include the information that you requested be included in that report.
Okay, so just to, so I don't have to flip that through the meeting, although I probably have it. I'm wondering if the number of DAs is reducing, staying the same, or increasing. If there's a correlation, because Councillor Butler's saying we need to reduce. Not saying she's in in her motion. In the address, she mentions that we don't get another planner, and I'm supportive of the idea. I'm just interested.
Yep. Through you, Madam Mayor, the number of DAs has generally been increasing. Obviously, variances occur month by month as people lodge and don't lodge. The overall trend is increasing numbers of applications. So we're dealing with more applications quicker currently.
Councillor Carter, you've got that question look about you. Yeah.
Not the first time someone said that. Actually, I do want to speak to the motion, if that's okay.
Certainly.
But I was wondering if we could possibly just think about being a slight amendment to the motion. And I was wondering if we wanted to review this. I suppose at a particular point in time, the reason that I'm suggesting that is one of the problems in a type of jurisdiction that we live in, like a shire, is that certain spaces where development occurs have a very small number of local properties. And what we do know is generally when it comes to planning decisions at more significant levels, really local matters, right? And what you get often is people from right across the board who make claims and you know, from right outside of jurisdictions and the like. I'm just wondering if it might make some sense that we look to review this perhaps in 12 or 18 months, just to see what the impact has been, either positive or negative, just to see. Because what I'm a little bit afraid of is that this would allow potential DA applications within more rural parts of the community to not necessarily come to our attention unless we look very closely at it, because of the fact that it's unlikely to get necessarily the quantum that's specified in these documents. And I know that a couple of our local councils have looked at that problem, because it does tend to lead to towns having more submissions vis-a-vis, creates a town versus rural divide. And I'm just a little bit worried about that impact on some of our smaller locales across the Shire more generally. So perhaps a review might be worth adding to this within time. Whether or not that's something that that Councillor Butler will be interested in adding to the agenda. I do think it's a really positive step. I'm worried about the potential impact on certain communities. And we do know, we've heard at times that people haven't always received notice of DAs, and unfortunately, and I don't know why, not every member of the Shire is checking daily what's up on the website around what's happening across Yass Valley. We would encourage them to do that, of course, but you know, which is 14 days is great, but I still think some people might potentially miss that. So I'm just wondering if we could look at a review process to this.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. If I could just ask the Director a follow-up question then. In terms of, I guess our more rural villages, for example, the item that we just saw today passed, the Woodbury Drive Sutton, what impact would that have had on that particular DA?
Thanks for that, Madam Mayor. This came out as taking an additional 5 weeks to assess, to issue a determination in that space. And a lot of that time is time that is involved in the review of the reports from a manager level, once the officer prepares it, to myself, to the CEO, then any amendments that need to happen throughout that process. So a lot of that time frame is across a broad range of people within the organisation. So there is that drain on resources in that space. And we worked out that this would be about 100 to 102 days additional time. Sorry, wrong number there. It would be an additional 5 weeks, so 50 days, 50 to 51 days, additional time taken to determine this application as a result of it needing to go to council. I will reiterate that this does not change anything to do with notification. So any submissions will still be considered by council staff and will be addressed in the 4.15 assessment reports that we prepare for every application. That's an attachment that goes with every DA report that goes up, and that details all the assessment work that we do. We still undertake robust assessment when it doesn't go to council. It just is a delegated approval that we issue for these development applications every single day.
Thank you, Director. Do I have a speaker for the motion? The speaker against the motion? Councillor Cameron.
Not against the motion, but just a question. What's the current situation if a councillor wanted to look at a particular DA to bring it to council?
Oh,
it's 4, isn't it? All right, okay, thank you.
Councillors, we have an opportunity to pull a lever that doesn't cost us money tonight. And I commend both staff and Councillor Butler for bringing this motion forward. What this does do is helps us not reinvent the wheel. This has already been tried and tested by several other communities around us. You're also looking at other councils such as Eurobadalla and Hilltops, who actually only bring in regionally significant DAs to a council meeting, or contentious DAs relying on the councillor call-in. We need to take the lead out of Farlap's saddlebag right now. We've got an amazing team. And that's not a reference to anyone's weight, but in terms of the skill and I'm digging myself a hole, aren't I? But what we do have is a planning team on the cusp of doing great things. we need to put any risk of an improvement order to the side by letting them run the good race and use the skill set that we've paid to bring in-house. And I think this is a great opportunity. Things that we've seen in the last couple of months, for example, the Hanley Place and the large house in Murray Bateman, they would have come to us anyway, given that the submissions were over 10. So I think this is a conservative measure, but a great lever to pull. I commend the motion, Councillor. Councillor Butler, would you like to close?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Let's put this one to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Carter. Sorry, that's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Just a slow on hands there. I was getting worried. Moving on to item 6.5, the membership of the Sport and Open Space Advisory Committee.
As the chair of that committee, can we move this into confidential, please?
Since it would involve the discussion of a member of a future committee member, I think it's 10.A2A. 10A2A. Councillors, do we have a seconder to move that into confidential? Thank you, Councillor Carter. Councillors, do we have any speakers for and against that motion going into confidential? So moved. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 6.5 on the end. Councillors, moving on to 6.6, the pool service review. Councillor Cherry.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I'd like to move the following motion. And it should be up for awareness on screen. I'll read it for wider awareness. At point 1, council trial option 2.1 alpha, being the extension of the current swim season and minor extension of hours 2026-2027 swim season for the Yass Memorial Swimming Pool. Point 2, the predicted $51,000 shortfall in the 26-27 budget Yass Memorial Swimming Pool be funded from the internally restricted electricity savings reserve, which currently has a balance of $96,720. Point 3, council notes no changes to the Bynalong Memorial Swimming Pool for the 26-27 season, other than the minor changes to operating hours. Point 4, directs the Chief Executive Officer to report following the completion of the 26-27 swim season, no later than the June 27 ordinary meeting on the operational feasibility and financial viability of point A, a targeted shoulder season operating model for the months of October and April, including afternoon only opening hours. And B, a partnership model involving qualified volunteer lifeguards to support shoulder season operations. And point C, a swim with a buddy pilot program at the Yass Memorial Swimming Pool having regard to water quality management requirements, insurance considerations, and comparable operating models used by other regional New South Wales councils. Point 5, report referred to in paragraph 4 include recommendations regarding any possible permanent changes to the operating season, operating hours, and alternative operating models for the Yass Memorial Swimming Pool, considerations prior to the commencement of the 27-28 swim season. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Can you say Councillor Cherry?
Paragraph 4, please.
4. I might be the second one.
Thank you,
So where's
Councillor
the
Butler.
report? Where's the report? Is the report referred to in paragraph
Sorry.
4? Point 5 says the report referred to in paragraph 4 recommendations. I just want to know where the report is.
It's in 4.4. Scroll down slowly.
Right.
Minimise that, please, so we can see paragraph 4 and 5.
Executive Officer is going to report.
2 reports. So it's the report. May I seek some clarification? Direct the Chief Executive Officer to report, and the report referenced in
That's the same
paragraph.
thing, yeah.
One is
To prepare a report.
to prepare a report. Yes, because this goes back to the first item about clarity.
English as a second language.
So, do you get that amendment?
To prepare a
prepare a
report.
report.
Fine, that's fine.
To prepare a report.
should be.
Councillors, we have a mover and a seconder for this motion. Grace, have you had enough time to absorb those points? If the mover could speak to their motion. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, prior to, I've got two questions that go to the, I guess, the general gist of the motion, and I think it's probably for wider awareness and for the public's interest that we address those if we may. Your concurrence. Madam Mayor, through you to the Director. Director, noting the swimming pool service level review proposes extending the operating season of the Yass Memorial Swimming Pool by approximately 2 months. Have Yass Valley Council staff assessed whether a more targeted operating model, specifically for the months of October and April, such as afternoon opening hours between 3 p.m. and 6:30 p.m, when demand is likely to be highest, together with a partnership model involving qualified volunteer lifeguards, as offered by the Yass Valley Triathlon Club President, Ms. Sarah Watson, with a feasible and financially viable option to support extending the season from the October long weekend until the Anzac Day long weekend be viable?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thanks for the question. It'd be really beneficial to have the data to show what this actually looks like, what usage looks like for the extended October to April. We have very up and down and patchy data in this space at the moment. By extending it in a more cost-effective way for this 12-month trial, it will allow us to collect all that information and also work through the other complexities that are limitations to what is a very generous offer from the club to assist in this space. But there's some practicalities that we do need to work through. It just allows us to do that, get some additional data, and provide a much more formalised position as a result.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Director Neil. I did have a second question, but you've already answered that as part of your response. Madam Mayor, if I may, I'd like to continue. Madam Mayor, my fellow councillors, I'll move this motion not only as the chair of the Yass Pool Redevelopment Committee, but as a strong supporter of better recreational spaces in the Yass Valley and increased accessibility for our community. I'd like to begin my speech by acknowledging the significant contribution of several members of the Yass Valley community who have advocated tirelessly for this outcome over many years. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the Yass Valley Swimming Club, first and foremost, particularly Club President Mr. Hugh Ranger and Head Coach Mrs. Donna Willard, for their constructive advocacy and ongoing engagement with Council. I'd also like to thank the Yass Valley Triathlon Club and its president, in particular Ms. Sarah Watson, whose organisation has consistently advocated for greater access to our swimming facilities and has been willing to work collaboratively with Council to achieve better outcomes for the Yass Valley community. I'd particularly like to highlight the contribution of Yass resident Ms. Laurie Collum. She has been a passionate and long-standing advocate not only for the redevelopment of the Yass Pool, but also for extending both the swimming season and the operating hours so that more members of our community can enjoy this facility. I also want to commend the Yass Valley Council staff, and in particular Mr. Dennis Chan, Manager of Community Spaces. Dennis has worked diligently with user groups, analysed the available evidence and brought forward a balanced report that gives us a practical way forward. So Director Neil, if you don't mind, please extend my gratitude to Mr. Chan and his team for the work that has been brought to us to this point. Madam Mayor, the key fact today is quite simple and deserves to be drawn out in detail. Option 2.1 for the recommendations from the pool review extends the Yass Memorial Swimming Pool by an additional 57 additional swimming days. Say that again, 57 additional swimming days. That is almost 2 extra months of access for our community and user groups. That is an impressive increase in the swimming season. It is something that we should celebrate. I strongly support this option because it improves access while still allowing Council to test the model and review the actual operational and financial data at the end of the season. My amendment to staff recommendation simply asks Council staff to also examine whether we can do better through targeted after-only shoulder season hours, qualified volunteer lifeguards, and the possibility of implementing a Swim with a Buddy pilot program, as recommended by the Yass Swim Club. These options do not commit Council to any further capital expenditure. They ensure that when the trial concludes in 12 months or when the swimming season ends, we have considered every practical opportunity to make better use of this vital community facility. And for those reasons, I commend this motion to the Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chari. I'll now move to the seconder, Councillor Butler. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Any further speakers? Oh, sorry, Councillor Cameron.
Very reluctant to speak against the motion because I think everyone here would like to see the pool operating hours extended. for the benefit of the whole community, not just Yats, but possibly Murrum Bateman and other people who might travel in from surrounding villages. The question that I've been looking at is the source of the funds. And the source of the funds is the Electricity Savings Reserve. And I have sent in a couple of questions about that, and we've been having a bit of a dialogue about that. But the Electricity Savings Reserve, which is an internal restricted reserve, is established to ensure savings from electricity costs, that is, savings from electricity costs. The saving measures are used to fund environmentally friendly projects. So it's supposed to be a source of funding for environmentally friendly projects. And you could make an argument that this is an environmentally friendly project. I think you'll be pushing it. And I think if we're going to decrease it by 51,000, the 96,000 down by 51,000, then what we're going to be funding for environmentally funding projects is going to be severely limited. So I think I have a problem with where their funds are coming from. This is an operating measure to operate an operational thing. If the program works and we spend this money, then it limits what we can do with environmentally friendly projects, such as solar panels on the Memorial Hall, if we were using the Memorial Hall in a reasonable and considered way, or batteries. Maybe batteries might be required as well. It could be funded through this fund. So I'm just really concerned about the source of the funding, and I know it's a pilot program for 1 year. If it's successful, which we hope it is, then we'll be looking at next year and the year after, etc. And you're going to have to make the decisions about where the funds come from. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. And if I could just speak to the kernel of where the restricted fund came from, back in July 2020, as a councillor with the backing of Councillor Harker at the time, who was chair of our Audit Committee and Economic Development Committee, we... Good? Okay. There was a motion in regard to the local roads and community infrastructure program, along with the LED upgrade of street lighting, which be funded using a portion of the funds to the tune of $470,000. And we upgraded 951 streetlights to LED. Now, this project was proposed to generate savings of around $60,000 a year. What was actually able to be squirreled was nowhere near the hoped for savings. The goalposts kept moving on the cost of energy and the buyback for solar and all kinds of issues that followed. However, we have a squirrel nut, and it's really important to note that this is an internally restricted fund. We can use it for whatever this council resolves to do so. And may I say that the Yass Swimming Club have smashed it out of the park in terms of the grants that they have secured to heat that pool, with an understanding that we would do our very best as a council to leverage that opportunity. So this is what it looks like. This is our opportunity to acknowledge the work that they've done to secure grants for solar, to secure grants for the heating of that, to increase the comfort. Whether you're 90 or 9, it's much better to get in a pool in the shoulder season in Yass if that pool is heated. Now, while we talk in the motion that Councillor Cherry has before us in terms of minor extension of hours, I don't want to dismiss this as minor, because with a council that is financially constrained, what we've been able to achieve is quite substantial. 138 days for Yass of extended swimming. And while that may only be half an hour each of those days, it equates to 69 hours. And for Bynalong, 151 days of extended swimming, and it may only be half an hour, but that equates to 75 and a half extra hours. If you're commuting on the Barton Highway to get home, or if you're working late in Yass and you want to get your kids to the pool in the heat of summer, you've got an extra half an hour that you didn't have before with this motion. So I think it's important that we acknowledge not only are we creating the extra 2 months, but we are extending those hours for now. And I wish we could do the whole project of the buddy program from beginning to end right now, but it's important that we get that data. So I commend the motion that Councillor Cherry has before us.
Sorry, I just thought of a question.
Councillor Flannery. Yeah.
I do support the motion entirely, but I was also wondering about, and I know that there's a need for certainty, if we had really cold weather or if daylight saving Easter's early next year, is there a possibility of reviewing it to reduce the hours? So if we got very cold temperatures and no one was going, and it was costing us a fortune to run like no heat, not well, there's heat, but cloudy days, so our solar wasn't working, we might be chewing through a lot of energy very quickly. So I totally agree that a review is a good way to go. Is there an option there for council to reconsider should the climatic or weather conditions be very unfavourable to swimming? And I know lots of people swimming in very cold water, but if there's 2 people swimming for a week, is that a reason to keep lifeguards on and, you know, make sure they have a buddy?
Excellent question, Councillor Flannery. Are we agile is the question.
Through you, Madam Mayor, one of the reasons that more data would be so useful is because last year, October, the pools were not open because the weather was so cold. So we already modify our opening hours in that space.
I don't want this resolution to set us in concrete.
I get that, yeah.
So we have some review possibility.
Yeah, from my perspective, from an operational perspective, 100%, it's up to the resolution of council whether that's an acceptable outcome in that space.
Councillor Cherry.
Happy to accept that as a recommendation and amendment, Madam Mayor.
So as an amendment, we could do for the Yass Memorial swimming pool, subject to suitable weather.
That could also be heat, like if we got really hot, you know, high 30s into the 40s, that we might want to make it longer. I don't know.
For point 1.
I'm going to remove the minor point as well.
And capturing what Councillor Flannery is saying about climatic.
It's more weather. It's weather conditions, like if it's
subject to weather extremes.
Subject to weather.
Extreme weather conditions.
Extreme weather conditions.
Yep. Choose both ones. I'm happy to remove the sub-para under 3 that says other than minor changes celebrating.
It just says at the beginning.
Yep.
Occurrence and minor.
Let the word minor. Can you delete the word minor from point 1, please?
The charges.
And the extension of.
Councillor Flannery, now that you've had that question answered, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'm fine, thank you. I strongly endorse all the groups that have contributed towards it and the extension of opening and closing hours and swim with a buddy.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery.
Speak to it, is that okay?
Absolutely. I don't think we have any further speakers against.
Feel free to check, that's all right. Yes. I just want to speak very briefly. I've sat on the pool committee under the leadership of Councillor Cherry since the beginning of this term. I know it's a project that has been of significant interest to yourself, Madam Mayor, as well. Can I just, at this particular point, just recognise again that we wouldn't even have this conversation unless there was the advocacy of the swim club. And Councillor Cherry mentioned both the coach and the leader of that particular group. We had the pleasure during the federal election campaign to meet a number of the kids in the swim club, and what a passionate, outstanding group of individuals. Very similar, I'm sure, to a number of the committee groups that Councillor Butler mentioned earlier from our embankment as well. It's still, I think we just have to recognise without the grant work of the Swim Club, we wouldn't even be able to begin this conversation of extending hours. And so I just want to thank that particular group of advocates for really caring about providing excellent opportunities for our community right across the board, and I commend the motion entirely as it stands. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
No, are we still not? Yes. Okay. Councillors, this is a novel position we find ourselves in, but we have some serious ICT issues for those at home. If I could have so that they continue to view and that we can actually see what's going on in here. Is that correct? We need a break. Okay.
Yes.
Councillors, because I have a
We can
procedural.
vote on this one first and then we'll take.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was urgent. Okay, rightio. Okay, let's get this one done then. Thank you. Councillors, do I have any further speakers for or against this motion? Okay. Sorry, opportunity for the speaker to close?
Thank you.
Okay. Let's put this one to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Could I have a procedural motion for a short break? Thank you, Councillor Cameron. And seconded, Councillor Butler. All those in favour? That's unanimous. For those at home, we will be breaking for a maximum 5, hopefully 3 minutes to resolve some technology issues. Returning by 6:24. Thank you.
Comrade.
frightening.
Oh, it's frightening.
Somebody's waving at me.
Are we good to go? Yeah, we're fantastic. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for that moment of grace. I'll need a procedural motion, councillors, to extend our meeting by 1 hour, please. As a precautionary measure. I'm sorry. Good on you, Councillor Butler. Seconded, Councillor McGrath. I'm not sure whether to say all those in favour or those who will accept that. Okay.
Reluctantly.
Reluctantly. Noted.
I was going to be with you there, Cameron.
All right. The motion is passed. Councillors, we're now moving on to item 6.7, the advocacy paper for funding priorities. The council endorses the below list of projects for advocating funding priorities in Yass Valley to candidates in the upcoming state election. So moved from the chair. We are ripping along here. Seconded, Councillor Rothwell. Councillors, we have an imminent state government election coming up in March. We have a window of opportunity to press our case. And I think it's very important that the state government knows that we are their baby magpie. They need to feed us and feed us regularly with funding to get projects off the ground. We are under quite a strict financial regime. We've got a financial roadmap that we've adopted. We need every grant opportunity. Number one priority for us out of the state government's pockets would be the Barton Highway upgrade, duplication and Murrum-Beckman bypass. Too long has this project been in the doldrums, and we need a recommitment and we need funding for the next stages. It is a disgrace that this project has not progressed. Our community is the one that is on the roads with all of the heavy haulage and all of the commuting traffic. And when the Hume Highway is closed, as we have recently seen with the six truck crash, and on the start of the school holidays, we had a lithium battery fire on the Hume Highway that sent every single one of those trucks through Yass Valley and onto the Barton Highway. We need this project duplicated, and we needed it done 10 years ago. So I urge the state government to listen to our list. We have a growing community. We need that Yass Hospital upgraded. It has been extended and extended, and it's time that we actually saw the state government get serious about us in the same way that they upgraded the Queanbeyan Hospital. We need our hospital equally done. We're our growing community, and we've seen a commitment from this council to get DAs processed faster, quicker at this same council meeting. We need exactly that back from the state government. Along the way, we've seen fatalities on the Hume Highway and the Yass Valley Way intersection on Anzac Day. We cannot address this. This is their issue. We've done everything we possibly can for items like the Federal Highway intersection with Shingle Hill Way. We're committed to putting the rumble strips on. We've done the signs. The rest is over to them. On the things that we need help with, the Morton Low Level Reservoir replacement, $6.5 million project, has been on the to-do list since 2020, and it's come to the critical point where we need this infrastructure funded. We can't grow sustainably Murrum-Beckman without a solid backup of 3 days worth of water supply. If there's a boil water alert, we're currently exposed to having to shut down the water treatment plant with no reserve in our community for South Yass. This is a project that is shovel ready. I've spoken to Minister Rose Jackson and alerted her that this is our priority project for Yass Valley in terms of infrastructure. It's identified it in the pipeline projects for the Safer Communities Water Fund. We know that no extra money has gone into the state government budget for that particular funding stream, but it is very critical that our project rises to the top of the list so we can commit to the housing targets that the state government has set for itself, and we are ready to deliver. So I commend this motion to you, along with plenty of community infrastructure that we see in there that we want done. It's a great wish list, but it's also backed up by a commitment from this council to getting things shovel ready or projects that are already shovel ready. Councillor Rothwell, a seconder, would you like to speak?
All good.
Okay. Any further speakers for this motion? Councillor
Cherry.
Cherry.
Question, just one very quickly. I fundamentally agree with everything you said. The only one that kind of raises a little bit of concern for me is having Murray Bay water security as priority 4, noting the interconnectedness and the strategic importance of that particular topic. Is it possible to raise that potentially number 1? Not deprioritising the others, of course we can do that, but I see that as being the fundamentally more important issue in the long term.
Councillor, I couldn't move it to number 1 because I know that the Moreton Low Level Reservoir replacement is a critical project, but I will ask the Director of Infrastructure to speak to that and see how far up the chain you can push that.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So this project is in an infancy stages. So we do have state government funding of the two, $190,000, $213,000 project in total for the feasibility study. Once that feasibility study is completed, we will then be starting to advocate for funding for that pipeline, if that is what is to.
So is there any reason?
In terms of the other projects, I think you could potentially put it above 3. I believe that the Yass sewage treatment plant augmentation is also, but very much our next, in order to facilitate growth as well.
Yeah, well, semantic, I guess it's all priority, but I understand that is a strategic objective, and obviously I understand.
Happy to receive the amendment to lift it to number 3.
Yeah, happy with that.
Councillor Flannery.
I was just going to ask what the Moreton Low Level Reservoir replacement is. I just tried to look on Google and I couldn't see reservoir there, but interested as to where
On Moreton Avenue. It's behind Henry Place.
Moreton Low Level Reservoir Replacement, Moreton Place, I assume.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So it's on Moreton Avenue. About 500 metres down Moreton Avenue on the right hand side, there's a reservoir there. It's been out of commission since 2020. It is the interim.
I know which one you're talking about now.
Yeah, interim reservoir for the pipeline from West Murray Bay.
The council a couple of years ago put a road in on the right hand side.
That's the one.
That was new.
So Councillor Flannery, there's brand new pumps that are pumping in line all the way to Murray Bateman now, which is decreasing the efficiency and will impact on that infrastructure if we don't replace the Moreton reservoir. A similar reservoir, I understand, exploded in Cooma. So as a precautionary measure, our one was taken offline and emptied because of the structure being unable to be repaired. I think that was the divers report.
Yes, correct.
So if we don't have that, we don't.
I wasn't suggesting not to have it. I was just interested as to where it was. I know now. Yeah.
Okay. Councillors, do I have any further speakers for or against this motion?
Very quickly, I support the motion entirely, and you know this is important. Just could someone clarify how many of these are actually shovel ready? Because ultimately, when it comes to electioneering, people like to pick up things that are ready. And so, you know, for example, I recognise the Barton Highway is desperately important, but it's not shovel ready. We know that there's lots of work to do to actually get even to the point where we know what it should look like. Whereas we do know that it seems like the reservoir might well be shovel ready. So I'm just trying to work out, like, strategically, are we putting forward our best case? Because if it looks too difficult, it won't get picked up. If it's a hit and it makes some difference, it's likely to get hit. We need to play politics is probably what I'm suggesting. So I'm just trying to, I agree entirely with all this. Just want to know how much of it actually is really shovel ready.
Certainly, and just briefly, I can tell you that the Yass Soldiers Memorial Hall upgrade is beyond the design and specification stage. So that's a $3 million project. So that would be shovel ready. In terms of the Yass Rail Trail, that is in the design and specification stage. So that's also, you know, approaching, you know, shovel ready. The Yass sewage treatment plant augmentation, that's about to go into the planning and approvals development stage. Things like the Murray Bateman Winery Trail are at planning and approval stage, but are yet to get the design and spec, is my understanding. And the Craiglang Mill precinct obviously is, in terms of the mill itself, that's all that's all shovel ready. That's got the designs. So that's a few off the top of my head. And sorry, Morton Low Level is ready. We could potentially, undertake things like the demolition right now, but that would cost us around $200,000 is my understanding. So the reason why I think it's very, very important that the state government actually helps fund this is because the dam wall loan is still being serviced. We still have another 6 years to go on this. We have the third highest water rates in the state, and I think there needs to be some compassionate response from the state government, like we saw with the treatment plant, to fully fund these, because we've already put so much. Our residents, in order to get water security, have done so much of that heavy lifting already, and will do so for the next decade, essentially.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillors, any further speakers for or against this motion? To the vote, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item 6.9, I believe 6.8 went through. Yes, thank you. 6.9 is the post-exhibition report for the proposed name, yes, Rotary Lookout.
I'll put in a motion. If we can, on that front, please.
If you could read that out to us, Councillor Cameron, when you're ready.
I haven't got to
Do you want me to read it?
off the screen. Oh, yeah, please.
So the alternative motion is council does not finalise the name of the lookout at 17 Irvine Drive, yes, to enable the honourable organisation to express a view on the matter.
Moving it.
Or on the naming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In regards to the name.
Okay, councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Flannery. If I could just ask a quick question with your grace, Councillor Cameron. I just wanted to check that this is still, with the director, that this still remains consistent with council's asset naming policy. Yes. not sure which way to look.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, look, there is nothing within this alternate motion in terms of engaging with another entity that would go against our new asset naming policy. So without any name on the table yet, it would be hard for me to speculate as to what may come back from Honourwall, but obviously we would respect what they provided in terms of submission.
Thank you.
So Cameron.
Yeah, look, I just do this partly because I was quite surprised that they hadn't put anything in regard to this particular site, and it's not to take away from the significant work that the Yass Rotary Club has done in regard to this piece of land, and also the fact that they worked very hard to get a significant grant from Hume Group for this particular project. So I think their efforts have been exemplary. I just think somehow or other there's been an oversight that maybe it's worthwhile from my point of view and the council's point of view to just get a comment from the honourable organisation. I think, I have no idea whether they have a strong view or no view or whatever, but I think it's, we're talking about building trust, as we did the other day. I think it's a good move just to get a viewpoint and ask them to get back to us reasonably quickly to finalise this particular item. Thank you.
Councillor Cameron and Councillor Flannery, would you consider an amendment that if there is no material objection, that the lookout be named Yass Rotary Lookout? Would you, if they have no objection, would you be acceptable with that?
I would accept that if they have no objection.
Yes, I have one point to clarify. I think express a view within the given time so that we bookend it with you know, if they're given 6 weeks or whatever time. So if the motion is amended to say council does not finalise the naming of the lookout, how about we make it positive? Council finalises the naming of the lookout at 17 Pine Drive, yes, once following consultation, honourable organisation within, I don't know, 21 days, 3 weeks or something like that.
So we call it the LAC.
Local Aboriginal Land Council.
Sorry, local Aboriginal Land Council.
Well, local Aboriginal.
Councillors, just noting that their time frame of their next meeting might be critical to this.
Well, I think within a given time, because it'd be good to have a naming, and I don't want to make it too complex. I just think we should be respectful of 60,000 years is a good thing. They might have an honourable name for Rotary. I don't know.
Do you want
within a set time period, or after their next meeting, something like that?
I wouldn't necessarily have a problem if it by the next meeting of council, because I know that's only 4 weeks, but I don't think it's going to be an issue where it's going to be discussed for a long period of time. I think I'll either say yes, it's a site that we want to have a comment on, or no, we don't. Okay. So I'm happy by the next meeting of council.
Councillor Cameron, my only concern is we're not aware of their meeting schedule. So if they were to meet like 2 days after our council meeting, for example.
I understand what you're saying. If possible. If possible.
I think we might seek some advice from
And I
our
think
executive.
council finalise the naming of the lookout to be Rotary, whatever it was called. Rotary Lookout. I think, Madam Mayor, you expressed it more eloquently than what I'm doing. It said,
Finalises the naming of the lookout as Yass Rotary Lookout at 17 Irvine Drive, following consultation with the.
It's not quite right.
It was to find out if there was no material objection to that name.
However you want to.
And Mayor, I think the Rotary Club should be involved in this too.
Haven't they been? Didn't they send
Well,
it?
they have, yes, they have. And they've asked for the lookout to be named Rotary Lookout. Now we're consulting someone else to come back with another name, and we're pushing the organisation that's driving the whole thing out of the picture. I think that's
We're not driving it out of the picture. We're being respectful.
Okay, councillors, do we have an amendment that is legible? So council finalises the naming of the lookout at Yass Rotary Lookout.
I think it's naming of the lookout at 17 Irvine Drive.
Yep.
So take out the Yass Rotary Lookout and have that as a second point. The lookout at 17 Irvine Drive, following consultation, Honourable Land Council, Honourable Local Aboriginal Land Council. Should there be no change, it should be named.
Should there be no material objection?
Yeah.
Should there be no objection? Sorry, yeah.
Should be material.
Oh, no material objection.
With ASAP.
Councillors, we have a motion before us. Councillor Cameron, I
have
can't remember
spoken.
if you spoke to it.
I have.
You have, thank you. Councillor Flannery, your opportunity to speak to the motion. Would you like to speak?
I've said
Okay, speakers against. Councillor Cherry.
Strongly against. Madam Mayor, I would like to speak out against this because this is unnecessary. I can tell you, as you know, that I'm the First Nations Advisory Committee Chair, and I maintain a very close personal connection with a lot of the elders and a lot of the key people with Indigenous communities within the Yass Valley, and I can tell you that I had a conversation with the CEO on the wall, and I spoke to her about this because she raised it at our First Nations Advisory Committee, which Councillor Cameron was there for, and I had a phone call with her directly after our meeting, and I asked her specifically, how do you feel, and do you feel confident enough to speak on behalf of Honourable Local Aboriginal Land Council Board? She said, look, I'm aware, and I would have liked to have been consulted. However, I am not upset by it. And I'm paraphrasing, and with her permission, I'm using her words in this chamber because I believe it to be very, very transparent and very respectful above all else. I understand and I accept the intent behind this alternate motion, but I believe it to be unnecessary because what this does is it takes the responsibility and the recognition away from the Rotary Club of Yass, who have done fantastic work here. Mr. Philip Callow is the lead planner, who I've also been in personal touch with, and made him aware of the situation, made him aware of potentially that this was going to come up for contentious debate. And I read exactly what Phil said to me today. He said, please feel free to mention that the funding from Transgrid includes an allowance for the design and fabrication of information science, and Rotary is progressing that work with the help of other community groups, which means that they are more than willing to undertake and include a respectful gesture to the Indigenous local community as part of that process. So for us to come over the top and trump them by doing this, by kicking the can down the road for another 28 days, is unnecessary. And at this point, Madam Mayor, I would like to push forward for a foreshadowed motion of the original recommendation that was presented in the business papers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cherry. Do I have any further speakers for the motion? Any speakers against the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cherry, for eloquently putting that. I think what this does as well, and this is with all due respect to the Honourable, who do a wonderful job. However, this is ad hoc amending. This doesn't even, if we want to start doing this when we've already gone out to consultation to the whole community, which includes the Honourable, and then we're singling them out, we need to actually bring this back to council and create a policy that says that anything that we're naming, they are specifically involved in. And we could do that, that's fine. But this is not the time just to start ad hocing and we choose that they are excluded from a 28-day process that everyone's done. So it's not the way that we should have done it.
Councillors, do I have a speaker for the motion?
Yeah, look, sorry, no, I'll speak against it.
That's all right.
Confusing.
Speak against it.
It's a rare moment. Look, I do think this is unnecessary, but I do think we should commit as a council by dint of recognition that we would like to consult. I think the most telling words actually in what Councillor Cherry did speak to us was that that the head of the Honourable Local Aboriginal Land Council would like to have been, and I think that's the concern. Yeah. So I think we should. I do understand that in this process, with respect to both HumeLink and the Yass Rotary Club, there was attempts to meet with and discuss this with the Honourable. That's of course not as a council question, but I do think there were at least attempts to do that. So I do think we should commit as an institution, though, to continue on consultation, particularly with respect to naming moving forward. And maybe it might be appropriate for us to write to the local Aboriginal Land Council and apologise perhaps for the omission on this particular case. But I do think ultimately, and I do come from a country originally where we do have dual naming of almost all assets, and I'm generally in supportive of that. And I do think having the pleasure of learning, for example, things like the countries in the Ngunnawal language has been one of the great pleasures of my life in Australia. So I do encourage us to continue to draw upon and celebrate the tremendous gifts of culture that have been to our particular shire for some time now. So on that basis, I don't see this as necessary. I do want to recognise, of course, the outstanding work of Rotary in going ahead with this particular project as well. They're securing of funding again for what is potentially a future and significant asset for YAS as well. But I would like us to continue, particularly at NIDOT, with respect to NIDOT Week, that we commit to walking hand in hand with those that are important community members in our shire.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Well said. I think, councillors, it's important to note we're not naming the land or the view. We're naming a structure tonight, and that structure has come about through the hard work of YAS Rotary and their due diligence. And I appreciate Councillor Carter's sentiments and share them. Councillors, do I have any further speakers for the motion?
I'm just a bit confused. Am I speaking for that motion or for the original motion?
So we won't be debating a foreshadowed motion. We're speaking to the motion currently here. So we have no further speakers.
I want to ask a question. Sorry, just to clarify, all I would like is that the Honourable Local Aboriginal Lands Council are consulted in naming objects as are other members of the community. And my question is, because I can't remember who said it, were they consulted? Did someone say, naming this, here's your opportunity, do you have any issues or not? That was really my sentiment.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. It's my understanding this appeared on the Your Voice Counts website.
Yes, it did.
So that opportunity is broadly advertised and available for anyone to, or any organisation to engage with and through our social media channels. Yep. Thank you. From the 29th of May until the 29th of June. Councillors, I'll now give the opportunity for the mover to close. Councillor Cameron has waived that right. We'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Councillors Flannery and Cameron. Motion is lost, and the foreshadowed motion will now bring which is the motion in the business paper. Sorry, I'm getting there.
Happy to move that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cherry.
Second it.
Councillor Rosswell. And councillors, I'd just like to put on record, it seems to be a stumbling block for me. The YAS Rotary, when I became mayor, made me an honorary member. I regret to say I've only had the opportunity to attend twice to speak on council issues, and I feel badly that I've forgotten that I am an honorary member of the YAS Rotary. Get out. So, councillors, this is as a membership and not as an executive of the YAS Rotary. I will declare and I will stay in the room. Thank you. Sorry about that, people. I'll fill in the form afterwards. Councillors, so we have a mover. Speaking for Councillor Cherry.
Madam Mayor, very quickly. Look, I strongly commend the efforts of the Rotary Club. Yes, they have done a fantastic work to get us to this point, and I remind the Chamber that we have voted twice on this issue unanimously to get us to this point. Mr. Philip Kello deserves a specific mention. Philip has been the lead point for Rotary Club, and he has done fantastic work. I first sat with Philip and Mick Newling, and then President of Rotary Club, Miss Mandy Carter, who brought me up to speed on what they wanted to do. And they wanted my support, and I was very, very quick to commit to that because I believe this to be a fantastic work. They attained a brilliant grant. I think it was about $80,000 from HumeLink, and they provided another $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 of their own money. I think that is exactly the same as the YAS Swim Club has done for the swimming pool. The Rotary Club YAS deserves equal recognition, and I strongly recommend this motion to the Chamber because it does exactly what we should, and that is support volunteer groups within the Yass Valley, and as you have said in the past, I look forward to the many fantastic photos of potential, proposals from the Yass Rotary look at, or whatever they decide upon, and whatever inclusion of the local Ngunnawal language, because they are more than willing to receive that and more than willing to conduct that when they go into discussions with HumeLink about the signage. On the matter about obviously being respectful, look, I am respectful first and foremost, and anyone that knows me knows that I'm very closely aligned with the Indigenous community, and this is not slide on them. It is not a manner of disrespect, and I completely agree with the sentiment of Councillor Cameron and Councillor Flannery to ensure that we are walking hand in hand with them, because, Madam Mayor, you and I were this morning at the Nighthawk Week Yass High School ceremony and assembly, and that just demonstrates just the level of support and their level of willingness to engage with the Indigenous communities. Not only that, but they told us themselves they want us to learn, they want us to listen, and they want us to walk with them to understand. They don't want a transactional relationship, they want us to be part of that journey, and this does nothing to detract from that. Matter of fact, this reinforces it, because the CEO of Wonderwell herself said to me she wants to acknowledge the fantastic work that Rotary Club has done, because she's all about the Yass Valley community. And this does exactly that. And not only them, but also the other organisations that are assisting the Rotary Club to get this up and running. So I commend the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cherry. Councillor Rothwell. Speakers against the motion. Speaker for the motion. The opportunity for the mover to close. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Robustly debated. Well done. Moving on to item 6.10. We've brought that back out, haven't we? Yes. The Code of Meeting Practice. We have a recommendation before us to adopt the Code of Meeting Practice as attached. Note the changes and note the legislated amendment regulation to the 2026 as attached. Do I have a mover, councillors? So moved Councillor Carter, seconded Councillor Cherry. Thank you. Who would like to speak?
A question, if you don't mind, Madam Mayor. I just want to understand the status. I suppose it's perhaps to the CEO, or it could be to. Can't see your title, Caitlin. Apologies.
That's right.
There's light reflecting. So, to yourself, I'm trying to understand the status now of the public forum, and how that operates, and whether or not that operates under exactly the same rules as a council meeting. Because we've shifted it, it's unclear what that exact status is, and if you could clarify, that'd be great. We appreciate it.
Okay, through you, Madam Mayor. My understanding and noting there has been very, very little guidance from the Office of Local Government since the regulation, the meetings regulation was introduced on the 26th of June. We are bound by the Code of Meeting Practice in how we conduct our public forum sessions. So recording, due notice, and only, I guess, being able to speak to items listed on the agenda still remains. The only material changes that have been brought about is very much briefings before meetings being an absolute exclusion. So I suspect that there's going to be more work done on this in the coming months, and the CEO may have greater insight from the CEO network. However, at the moment, we're operating business as usual with the continued no workshop, no briefing rule.
Oh, I'm happy with that. It's now in the regulation. It's taken out of the Code of Meeting Practice altogether. It's regulated. We don't have briefings. We don't have workshops. We do have a public forum. We are maintaining those on a separate day. They are live streamed, and we're trying to meet, or we do meet the Code of Meeting Practice as it stands, but also understanding where the Minister is going with this and trying to make sure that we are still meeting those maybe not undocumented expectations.
Yeah. So my question's got nothing to do at all with the actual workshop or briefing question.
Public forum.
It's actually the status of the forum, and it's really about attendance questions. And I speak personally. I have a standing commitment that I can't get out of. And that poses a problem for me attending the forum. So I'm trying to work out if I need to provide an apology to not be able to attend that particular forum and then turn up to the council meeting on Thursday, etc. I'm just trying to work, because to some degree they are the same thing. So I'm just trying to work out how that works. It really is quite a personal conversation.
Yeah, sure.
Through you, Madam Mayor, as part of the annual report, we report on attendance at all council meetings. However, public forum is optional. Whilst the same rules of the Code of Meeting Practice apply to the execution of that forum, attendance is far more flexible now that we're reverting back to the old code, whereby you are able to zoom in, come and go, leave be absent if needed, and you do not need approval via a leave of absence, not being in the chamber or, you know, not being here at all for a public forum.
Thank you. I enjoy watching the recordings of them.
All right, Councillor.
Follow-up question. I'm also a little bit confused as to which code we're using, but given I travel a lot, are councillors now allowed to attend meetings electronic by Zoom? The previous guidelines, and that is unlikely to change for the next month or two.
At least for the next meeting.
Madam Mayor, can I just seek, sorry, Councillor Cameron, just a clarification on that though, because my understanding was under the old code, you couldn't just zoom in if you wanted to. You still had to provide, there was still an exemption, or that you had to provide to be able to zoom into ordinary meetings. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for myself as well.
Yeah, sure. So you are able, with the grace of the majority in the chamber, to be accepted into the meeting via Zoom. However, there's no need for you to supply evidence of caring responsibilities, medical. You can simply be working away. But that's irrelevant to you applying for that leave to be present on Zoom as opposed to in the chamber.
Right, Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, I have a question too as well. Seem to be working under the 21 meeting practice. But the issue of the whole thing about not having a briefing beforehand wasn't there, that one. So what we seem to be doing is, and this is the confusion for me, and it was confused on Tuesday because we had the presentation, not a workshop. We had the presentation, but we were looking at 618 and there were question and answers on 618, which seemed to go against that. So what I'm actually saying is we seem to be working under the old code, but in regard to pre-briefings and issues about the agenda, we can't discuss. That's the situation.
Yes, because it's now regulated. It's not in the Code of Meeting Practice.
It's not in the Code of Meeting Practice.
No, the Minister has now regulated that there is no briefings or workshops to happen. And the difference on Tuesday...
About the agenda. So if the agenda's not known, like say before the briefing papers are done, there is a time there. Or is that sort of messy?
It's very messy. It's very messy, and there's been little guidance given to us. We know of at least one council that's received a performance or improvement order. Is it performance or improvement? I can't remember. A stern warning about having briefings, workshops, whatever you want to call it. And my role as CEO is to ensure that we are, that doesn't happen.
Thank you.
I would like to mention that the reason or the difference between having NTRO here is no different than what we had when we had the Murray-Bateman pump track. Yeah. People came, they presented, and the councillors and only councillors were enabled to ask questions. That was the same with NTRO. However, they did a presentation, no different to what our ARIC chair does or our auditors do from time to time, and it was all live streamed and public.
All right, thank you. Got it.
All right, councillors, 7 items to go, so let's crack on. Any further questions or speakers to this motion? All right, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item 6.12, the draft councillor meetings with registered lobbyists and property developers policy. We have a recommendation to endorse the draft for exhibition period of minimum of 28 days. And if no material submissions are received, the policy be adopted. Do I have a mover? So moved, Councillor Butler. Seconded? Speakers for? Against? Let's put it to the vote. All those in...
Sorry, question.
I'm
sorry.
Hand up.
Sorry, I'm wearing out my welcome. I think that happened years ago, actually. Look, just a quick question. Thank you for the comment. I just do we have a list of registered lobbyists? Like, how do we know who we're talking to? Like, I could be talking to Jason Burgess over here, and he's got 3 different hats that I could be talking about, which I did do recently. So I had to ask him, what's the capacity? Is it, so I think this is a little bit difficult. The other point, so I'm really asking a question. Do we have a list of registered lobbyists? Who's a developer? Do you have to put up your hand and say, I'm a developer, or you don't? And the other thing is, like, we often meet, there's councillors here and staff here who go to the business chamber, meet developers, we won't name them. Do we have to record that? I don't know. We could be in casual conversation with people, and in a casual conversation, a meeting. I don't know. So it's a little bit vague.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron.
I'd ask for some guidance.
Yes. Can you answer that now,
Yes.
or would you like to take it?
No, I'm happy to attempt to answer them in order that they were asked. So your first question was around, do we have a list of lobbyists? The answer is the Electoral Commission keeps that particular register. So it falls upon councillors when you do your returns through the Electoral Commission every quarter or every 6 months, I guess, to be aware of who is on that registered list. So the Electoral Commission is the holder of that list. The second question, I believe Councillor Cameron, correct me if I'm wrong, was in relation to, do you need to record through this register inadvertent meetings with people down the street at the Chamber of Commerce, as an example? The answer is no. If you are being asked to meet about a specific property or a specific proposal, that is when I would expect that this policy would be activated, but not a casual conversation in Coles.
Thank you.
Councillors, it's important to note, if you decline the meeting, you don't have to notify, only if you accept the meeting. Councillors, do I have any further speakers for or against this item? If the mover is happy for us to go to the vote, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Moving on to item 6.15, the monthly financial report. We have a recommendation before us to note it. Councillors, do I have a mover? So moved, Councillor Carter, seconded Councillor Cameron. Would Councillor Carter like to speak to the item?
Councillor Cameron, a question.
Yeah, I have a question. All right. Yeah, I have a question. I think I sort of was one of the people who sort of exempted this one. I look at the outstanding debts, so I'm probably looking at the issue of rates, etc. And I was going to go into a bit of detail, but I'll just go to the two that I'm interested in. And I'm looking from May to July, the July information. With rates, the 2023 arrears down by $120,000, which is pretty significant. Why was that the case is my first question. One of the questions you could ask, and I'm not an accountant like yourself, I'm not an accountant.
Me either.
No, I know. So we're on level territory. But one of the ways you can get rid of that is just move that into bad debts. So is that the case or not? No. So
I would suggest they've been paid.
They've been paid.
Answer specifically, I would need to go and work that out.
Yeah, fine. If we could find that out, because it seems to me as though that was a significant decrease, whereas for 24, the arrears only went down 20,000. So we've gone back a long way to get a lot of money.
Any payments that are made to an account are put on the oldest monies, Owen. Right. So if someone has arrears in each of those years,
yeah,
it would be applied to the oldest debt.
All right, okay, got that. Thank you for that. And with the water rates, the 91 plus days has gone up from, this is from May to July, from 500,000 approximately to 850,000, which is again a significant movement. Any understanding why? If you could look into that, I would appreciate that. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
In relation to debts, Councillor Cameron, through you, Madam Mayor, we've met with a number of debt recovery agencies, drafted a policy that will be with Council next month.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carter, would you like to speak to the issue or you?
I can just say that in the annual financial report for council, there's been no significant increase in bad debts. So that would suggest that this is just payment that's being applied from the payments come in that's been applied to historic debts. I would have thought. I have nothing to do with that.
Thank you, councillors. Let's put this one to the vote then. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillor. We're now moving on to 6.16, the Program for Energy and Environmental Risk Solutions Quiz Update. It looks like we're being asked to recommit to the program under a slightly different name.
So moved.
Seconded.
So Butler, would you like to speak to the issue? Any speakers for or against the item? Any questions? Okay, let's put that one to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item, the notice of motion, 7.1. Councillor Flannery.
Sorry.
Notice and by one.
7.1, the motion, sorry about that, I was just mildly distracted there. So the motion before you is that Yass Valley Council join the federal government Big Bag Recovery Program and work with distribution agencies to reduce the volume of big bags entering landfill. Councillor Burgess, you'd probably be aware of this program. Bags are used by farmers to buy bulk feed, contractors. They are synthetic bags. They're very large bags and they can carry a couple of tons of feed and things. I know on our own farm we have a number of them and I'm not very good at sewing or parachuting, so I'm unsure what to do with them. And I asked another farmer what they did with their big bags and they said, oh, there's a big bag recovery program in their jurisdiction. I did a tiny bit of research, but I thought I would present it to the Yass Valley Council and hope that they can support the Big Bag Recovery Program so that farmers and other people in construction who buy they buy items in bulk and take them to a place and that they will be collected and not into our landfill program.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Cameron. I think we have a statement from the executive. If I could just ask our CEO to respond to this, particularly if this has any on-costs for council that we need to unpack.
Yep. Through you, Madam Mayor, I was wondering if Councillor Flannery would be open to adjusting the motion to council investigate our participation in the big bag. Yeah, I'd just like to understand what sort of transportation costs and so forth, cost benefit of us being part of that before committing.
Yes.
So if the mover and the seconder are accepting of those amendments,
Yep.
have any, sorry, I'll give the opportunity for the mover to speak to the issue.
No, I just have a question of Councillor Burgess. Do you buy feed in bulk in big bags?
I buy super in big bags, and if you go over here, we put it in bulk in big bins because we come with the trucks to get it. They put it through a cutter and it just goes bang and all the bottom's cut out of it.
Yeah.
And it falls in and they put it in the rubbish bins. Out on the farm, you know where it goes. In our rubbish tips or a big smoke. Burn it.
Which is what actually concerned me, given that the amount of plastics that are entering our environment and the increasing rates of cancer and other kind of issues that are associated with having more in the system. So I urge the council to strongly consider having something that makes it encourages farmers and other people not to put big bags in the tips.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Thank you.
Speakers against? Further speakers for? Opportunity to close, Councillor Flannery? Okay, put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Councillors, moving on to questions we've noticed. Would Councillor Flannery like to move to note questions?
I have a couple of questions.
So, would you like to move that we note them, and then you can speak to the item?
Yes.
So, moving to note questions 1 to 11. Seconder?
Councillor McGrath.
Councillor McGrath. Councillor Flannery, you have the floor.
To the director, through you, Madam Mayor, through to the Director of Infrastructure and Assets, relating to question 1. This to you anyway. Why does the Yass Valley Council provide up to 8 bins at Victoria Park without any locking devices so people fill bins with their domestic waste? Like I've just recorded heaps of number plates of people that do this.
I'm sorry, Councillor. You've got the responses in the business paper.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question about the response. I do want to ask a question about the response of question 1. I think it's really important because I asked, why does the council provide up to 8 bins? And I would think an answer would be that there's lots of rubbish or there's a need. The answer says that there's a review of the waste services and provision of bins in public spaces. That's not what I asked. I asked, why does the council provide up to 8 bins? Because I've also calculated how long the truck takes to empty 1 bin to 8 bins. And it takes longer. And if it's longer, less efficient and it costs more. And this goes into our waste streams. So I'm wondering, am I able, Madam Mayor, to ask to get an answer to my question, why we encourage people to put waste in our public bins when there should be some kind of needs?
Councillor Flannery, I think you've been well answered with that. A review is currently in place, and I expect that given that this has been raised in a meeting, they're going to take this issue quite seriously because you've raised it in this. So my understanding is a review is happening as we speak, and that some results will come.
I sort of thought that, but then I thought, let's be agile. If we know that emptying 8 bins costs more, and I can identify the cars that go in there if you want me to, then why is the council continuing an action that's inefficient? Like if the sporting groups needed it, they should pay for it. That should be part of a review. If everyone from there had all their litter, they don't. We are providing bins for people that don't live in Yass, and it's costing our council and our ratepayers money. And I want to know why we're doing it. It's pretty simple. Why are we doing it? Because we like giving people access to throw their crap out.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. I'll just seek some advice from the executive.
On the way home.
That's exactly right.
Sorry, Councillor Rothwell, just 1 second. The CEO would like to respond.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. We have a new manager of facilities and waste, or waste and facilities. We also have a new manager for park open spaces, both of which are new to our area. And before ripping out a number of bins, would like to actually understand themselves and do the analysis themselves whether they are warranted. We are very well progressed through the waste review, being undertaken by an independent consultant in conjunction with our new waste manager. I believe the answer is the answer that has been provided by staff. Don't just react without actually understanding what the need is first, and that is what we're trying to understand. We've had a number of people move on from this council, and now's the time to reassess and set new benchmarks.
Okay. Councillor Rothwell, you need to speak.
No, I'm better not.
I think I know what you're going to say, so no. Councillor, so I think we have a response to that. Was there any further points that you'd like to speak to?
There is. So question 4, this relates to the Murray Bateman path. I don't think I'm a sore loser, and I'm not. What I really wanted to understand is how members in this room change their views. And so that's why I asked this series of questions. But question 4, there's an error in how the council or staff member has answered. Question 4 Question posed to the council's insurer, Statewide Mutual, at 1:45 on Wednesday, the 24th of June, so that's 24 hours before the meeting. By Caitlin. Sorry, Caitlin, I can't read over your.
Manager of Governance and Risk.
Everyone. We are wanting to get some advice from you in relation to insurance requirements concerns JPL might have regarding facilitating a public path in close vicinity to a horse arena, where members of the public can take their horses to ride from time to time, run events. See attached report and risk assessment for more details is. Now, this is the question from you, not my question. The question from you that you asked. Many councils inherently own and manage recreation areas, whereby there are conflicting uses. What is JLT's perspective on having a public path that may at times come close to a space whereby horses are present? So that is not my question. I just want it to be clarified that the response that I was given by council staff responds to the Director of Governance's question to the insurance company. And so it completely missed that wasn't my question, and perhaps I should have asked it differently. So my question is, was the information and question provided by the Manager of Governance and Risk for the Yass Valley to the Council's insurers adequately describe the location of the path to the insurers, noting it did not provide specific information about the location of the proposed path between two arenas, not one as referenced in the question. If you like, I can reread the question that the Director of Governance asked. Obtain a plan or map showing the location of the path. I could be corrected on that because apparently there is one. Description of members of the public taking their horses from time to ride in reality where the area is used for events, where there may be up to 100 horses and riders in the location of the proposed path, putting them and pedestrians in direct conflict. And so the response to question 4 is inadequate because you've given a response to a question I didn't ask, you asked. I didn't ask that question. So I guess what I'd like members of the council and the community to know is that there seems to have the council's insurers been given, I would say, inaccurate information from the council about the location of the path being between two arenas, and the risk assessment that was referenced. The risk assessment that the council staff used to determine the risk inadequate.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. I think it's important to note that you've received a written response in the business paper. So you've had more than 3 working days to observe the response, which is a copy of the full council report, map and risk assessment was provided to council's insurers for an informed view to be reached. And further to that, the response is that there appears to be controls in place to reduce the risk of harm between users of the shared pathway and the horse arena. And that they have reviewed the emails and they don't have any concerns, and it doesn't prejudice your cover under the scheme. Case closed. We've done with the DA, and I think it's now time that we move on. Councillors, we need to put this item to bed. While you're still on your feet. While I'm still on my feet.
You can put it to bed, you can make it hide, and you can do a whole lot of things. But the point that I'm trying to make is that there needs the due diligence of the staff need to be increased. We need to have mature discussions where things aren't hidden. So there's been a number of years that this path has been discussed. All I'm asking is that accurate information is provided. You can tell me to go to bed, to do all these kind of paternal things, but at the end of the day, this was not correct. The insurers were not given the correct information. We're not given the correct
Councillor Flannery, I think we'll have to agree to disagree, and we have a meeting to proceed with. So we'll now put this motion.
There is no motion. There's no motion. There are questions.
Councillor Flannery, you moved a motion to note your questions with notice. It was seconded by Councillor McGrath. You now have the opportunity to close before we put this to the vote.
I recognise that you think the path issue is closed. You, other people have voted on it, and you feel that it's a success story. But I do believe in principles and having the correct information provided and given. There's a judgment made, or reading of my question was not correct. It was not interpreted correctly, and so therefore I go back to the first point that it was inaccurate information given to our insurers, and as a member of the community and the council, I would be concerned about that.
Councillor Flannery, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour of noting the report? That's Councillors Carter, Cherry, Flannery, Cameron, Jones, Burgess and McGrath. Those against, Councillor Rothwell and Councillor Butler. The motion is passed. Item
8.2.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron, would you like to move to note the answers to your questions? Questions 1, 2, 3.
Of course.
Thank you. Seconded. From the chair. Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, I just have 2 quick questions. Okay, and thank you for seconding it. Good to see. Good to see. Just in regard to the question 1, trying to read it. This formal qualification will be completed by December 2026. Without going into the person concerned, what's the formal qualification that the person will obtain at the end of the year?
Councillor Cameron, I believe that was responded to, but I'll give you the opportunity for the director to highlight that.
Through you, Madam Mayor, AQF level 5.
Sorry?
AQF level 5.
It will be attained, hopefully.
By just, as a condition of a formal condition of employment, our requirement is to reach that qualification.
Thank you. Now, with question 2, I see that there's going to be a review of this particular property, which we are responsible for. I noticed that in the internal restriction, no money has been spent in the previous year in regard to the R.M. Bateman Old School House site. So I'm not sure which director I'm going to go to you. Okay, thank you, CEO. Very good. I'm just wondering that no money spent in the last financial year. There's money there that could be spent, and I know you could be saving it up for a rainy day that might destroy the roof or something. But I would have thought that some money could be leaked out of there to do some minor works in the future.
Through you, Madam Mayor, potentially. As I emailed you today, we're intending to do a review of that site.
Yeah.
It's been drawn to my attention that there's lots of complexities with that site over the many years, and the journey that council has been on with that site. We will be talking to Crown Lands and be presenting a future report back to this council before, hopefully within the next couple of months.
Oh, great. Thank you for that.
Thank you, councillors. I'll take it that that's closed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour of noting? That's Councillor Carter, Cherry, Flannery, Cameron, Jones, Burgess, McGrath. Those against? Councillor Butler, Councillor Rothwell. The motion is passed, but I'm noting the protest votes. All right, councillors. I think that now concludes our business paper, except for our confidential item. So if I could have a mover to put us into confidential, please. So moved, Councillor Cameron. Seconded, Councillor Rothwell.
That's the first.
See those two names side by side.
Can we vote that?
I note that there is no one to consult about any opportunity to speak to the items going into confidential in the gallery, and so we will put that to the vote. All those in favour of going into confidential, that's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. For all those watching on live stream, we will be back shortly after our confidential, well, hopefully, session. Hopefully shortly, with the results of our confidential session. So we'll now pause our live stream. Did we need that extension? Only about 10 minutes. Ah.
Minutes.
Thank you, councillors. We've now resumed our meeting, and the results of the confidential session are that council appointed councillors Jones and Rothwell as the alternate delegates to the Sport and Open Space Committee that's currently chaired by Councillor Flannery. Thank you for that honour. And council accepts the late expressions of interest received from Ms Rachel Slocombe and Mr Kim Williams, and confirm their memberships on the Sport and Open Space Advisory Committee. And I'll do a cheeky advertisement for that committee, noting that there are some spaces free if anyone's listening, particularly from the Yass area. That would be fantastic if you would consider applying. That now concludes our meeting of council for July.